Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm Lewis, that's Duncan Thorenshield, shrouded in darkness. Oh, there you go. The monitor tan's kicked in. Nice. He's having a look at Twitch chat. No problem. How you doing, mate? Bit of a stressful time.
Yeah, maybe I should just keep some sort of a white screen up behind so you can actually see my face. That's a good idea.
Yeah. But you know, you having a tough old time. Real life hitting Duncan Shields like a ton of bricks.
Nah, it's all right. Just a bit annoying, some of the stuff I'm going to deal with. But aside from that, whatever. You get through it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. So it's good to have you here, and we actually timed it well. We were going to obviously do it on the usual, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. We had some delays, obviously, with shit going on, and boom, we dropped it right on a fucking CS update and a mammoth.
You know what I love about this, by the way, Rich, is this is a perfect example of what happens in esports, right? Where people on the one hand tell us that, like if you have any success, the way people hate on you is they go, "Oh, you just produce low effort content that anyone could just spit out some shit opinions," even though you clearly don't. There's like nuance, years of industry, time spent, like ability to make a video or structure it. No. But anyway, the same people then, the second anything happens, it's like, what do you think about Smith's G2? What do you think about it? What do you think about Smith's? It's like 4 seconds to think about you, daft cunt. All I'm thinking now is like Smith's G2, your Let's Noobs. Like that's the sort of thing. Like, give me some time to process it. Like, why would I want to have to put my video out now? Like, I just instantly.
I thought what you were gonna say was, how quick they themselves are to jump to like fucking these hot takes in a bid to kind of, gain attention. Like I've seen a lot of streamers and influencers tweeting about this CS:GO free to play.
Are they doing their version of that shit thing where when like Fortnite announced all that prize money, like in an entirely undetermined manner? It's not exactly announced the circuit, Rich. They just
exactly. This makes it the biggest esport in the world. It's like
half the CS:GO pros who just like had lost some motivation were like, I am now Fortnite pro. It's like, great joke, sick, probably not. I'm just gonna go ahead and say probably not.
But so I've seen a lot of people. So we're gonna talk about that first. Just a reminder, of course, that the channel is sponsored by Rivalry.gg. Go to Rivalry.gg/RLS, where if you sign up, you'll qualify for $350 of VIP bonuses, and you can place your esports related bets in a safe and ethical environment. Right, let's talk about this fucking free-to-play update, because I knew it was going to happen. We've been saying it for years. I think Valve should have done this probably about a year ago. I'm glad that they actually finally took the plunge and made the game fully free to play. It was always going to come. It was just a matter of when. Again, I thought it might have been part of their integration with China, which I know they've had some problems over in Dota with the whole Chinese thing at the moment. We're not going to get into that on this broadcast.
By the way, I love that, by the way, Rich. I'll just say this one thing, okay? Me and you now have an unlimited get out of jail free card with the Dota 2 community. Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's this year where there's been all these like incidents where Dota pros just cannot stop saying racist things in public. They can't stop. You know the irony, of course. It's mostly people from like Asian backgrounds who obviously don't have American political correctness as their way of life, But the irony of it, of course, being, I was thinking to myself, well, fucking hell, they still keep going on to this day. Like, for example, the main thing they claim about me, Richard, that I've done as like a heinous crime if it's on the Dota subreddit. It's actually just they claim that I defended you, but like violently attacking Loader. Not a single tweet or comment I would ever suggest as well. I believe what they're referring to was the one where I said something like, if you talk shit in real life, there are consequences. Or
no, I think it was
a reasonable statement,
I think it was because I think you were in the green room when that happened, if I remember rightly.
Sure.
So you didn't actually see it, but I think you heard it, and I think you put a tweet out just along the lines of, if you come backstage shouting and screaming and getting in someone's face, and then someone manhandles you. Yeah, and that isn't a defense. I mean, again, it's just a statement of fact. Of course, Sam, who was there, Josh Raven, who was there, you who heard him shouting. all of that evidence to suggest he was being the antagonist in the situation completely discounted.
I mean,
by
the
every
irony is
media
they
outlet.
don't know. I actually do defend it on some levels because I've explained before, like in this scenario, you were in a bad situation, you were painted in a corner, etc. It was nothing that crazy happened. But anyway, the point I was getting to is they still bring that up to this day. Some shit that happened at the end of 2015 is also the most heinous crime ever. But I've noticed if it's any pro player, they're just cool skating on all racism, like pretty much with no punishment if possible, on all the subreddit all the time. Doesn't matter if it's Ice, if it's this fucking cuckoo guy now. You can basically just say racist stuff. I'm not joking, Rich. The general sentiment of their subreddit will sort of be like, he was just bantering, which, by the way, in some cases, they actually might have been. I haven't looked into all the details, but it is still racism. Let's be real. Like, you can't drop like ethnic slurs and just be going, this is fine in 2018.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
why am I banned?
Yeah, put it this way. I said, like, for example, the Ice thing is completely indefensible.
And because he was in a top team, they just wanted him to skate. I'm not even joking. They wanted it to not be a big deal. It's mad.
I remember Threads complaining about his Twitch ban. It's like he literally, what he said is like just textbook racism, and it's not even like, but he said the M word, but there's a context for it. No, it was textbook racism, like just no getting away from it. But then with the CC word. It's a little bit more complex than that because, I mean, you're not. I don't think the people saying it are using it to denigrate people. I think they're mocking a language which is in itself xenophobic and culturally ignorant.
You notice how all the context you're giving right now, though, is exactly what you're not allowed in any other sub, any other game, any other area of politics. But in Dota 2, there's just so many cunts that they're like, well, if one cunt stands back to back with another, we can hold off the world. It's like. That, but,
and listen, I don't support the only person who should be banning players from Valve tournaments is Valve. This idea that the Chinese government are getting involved and maybe Cuckoo's not going to get a visa. Like TNC fucked it up because they lied and tried to cover it up and said, he only said CC because there was a player with the name CC in the game, and the screenshots out of context, and it was all a lie and a cover up, and the managers were involved. It's just completely, what should have happened is Valve on day one should have got involved and fucking just said, like, listen, you've lied about it. Cuckoo's definitely banned from the major as punishment. We wanted you to drop him. You didn't. We're going to intervene. Instead, you had this 3-week snowballing of fucking just nonsense because Valve were hoping, God, maybe TNC won't even qualify. Maybe this won't be a problem. Yep. Maybe TNC will drop the player. And, you can't crush your fingers and expect people to do the right thing on your behalf. You're the one holding all the cards. You're the game developer. It's your tournament circuit. You've got to come in and, take a bit of authoritative leadership, which, we've talked about it before. This is one of Valve's only downfalls as a company. They're so hands-off that they inadvertently allow bad things to happen, like what happened here, which now there's a bigger divide between the West and the Chinese scene than there's probably ever been. The average Chinese fan now playing on a North American server or an American Chinese person or anybody with, a reference to China in their name is just going to get the CC word hurled at them, just constant slurs now because people are like almost doing it in, a misguided protest.
Mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fucked up how bad it got. And that it could have just been dealt with on day one. So really, really sad. But I'll also add, like you say, I mean, I think the best example of just how tolerant people are willing to be when it's like a popular player is the mind control situation at Team Liquid, where he literally said the world would be a better place if Hitler had exterminated all of Russia. Which is like, I mean,
Which I believe in that scenario was that he was like tilted and that was his version.
Yeah, he was tilted and there was Russians in his game.
The point here that I'm making is like, no one else is allowed this context, which is how public outrage works in the modern day.
Well, I don't think there is any.
Normally people go against people like that. So the idea that like we've never done anything comparable to this. Like the idea that we get wrecked all day long just shows what absolute cunts those people are.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, when you get to a point where you're advocating for genocide and saying maybe Hitler, didn't do anything, it's like, I don't think anyone else would have been afforded You know, he basically didn't get dropped by his org, didn't get dropped by any sponsors. There was very little furor. He just
what
got
was weird though
fined
is
by
like
Team
the
Liquid
New
and got
York
to give the
Times
money to charity.
editorial board actually said that they're eager to bring him on board. Like he could just come on one day and then
Straight fire, appreciate it.
to do their esports section. So yeah.
But you know, it's like he was pretty much allowed to skate, and of course then it brings in the situation. You know, one of the other, and again, this is rightful resentment from the community, the Dota community. I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, proceeded to talk about it. Classic by the numbers.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, who gives a fuck, eh? You know, the resentment is rightfully placed that, you know, guys like Mind Control, they're not banned from any major tournaments. They weren't banned from any tournaments at all. All they got was a comparative slap on the wrist. Yeah, what they said is arguably worse than Cuckoo and Skems. So it's like, you know, does the tournament circuit need some hard rules about this so it's universally applied and fairly applied? Probably, because otherwise it always invites this idea where if you're going to allow tournament organizers in, indeed, what was suggested was it was local Chinese government officials, which I can totally believe. I heard it from credible sources. For example, guys like Cyborg Matt are some of the most well-informed people in the scene when it comes to Dota, you know, the stuff they know and the level of access they have. So I'm inclined to believe that. And I think, you know, Valve were in a lose-lose situation, and they made it worse for themselves by not acting on day one, because they have to do business with China. They just got approval in, I think it was July, and it's now been, you know, made official to have Steam China, which is a partnership between Perfect World and the Chinese government, where the Chinese government will vet every game that goes on Steam. So aesthetically, it'll look like Steam, but it won't have every game on there because obviously Mr. fucking Chinese government says the Chinese people can't have access to certain types of art. And
I do appreciate that though. It's like, well, we're going to be keeping a tight governmental control over these games. Fentanyl, let that shit go out the back door. Now about this new CS:GO game, like,
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So,
what a world we live in. I can't.
Oh, it is.
Oh, by the way, I just want to. I'm gonna pull a Richard, right? Which is one of the things I normally never do. It's quite famous. Is I never, whether it's at events or talk show, I never have Twitch chat up because I don't want like morons to possibly like tilt me or say something stupid or just see them laugh at the wrong place. But just to check this link was working while he was talking, I opened it up. Right, the first thing I saw was a comment. This is a perfect example of why I just instantly closed the Twitch chat box down. I just saw a comment from someone that went, "Are they only going to be talking about Dota today?" How would they know, you daft god? You think we handed out a fucking program under your seat that you were late for, and they're all just reading that like, Dota section's about 25 minutes long. After that, we move into like, how would they know, you stupid little ranch? Get out this, ban this guy now. Like, his name was like Elias7 or something. Get him the fuck
out. Freebird.
Get him the fuck out.
Mate, what can you do? Like, you know,
that's why I don't look at Twitch chat. It only took an exposure of 1 minute to just trigger me off the face of the earth.
No, like, it's a rough one. I mean, this is what I mean. I actually think I do well considering the levels of stupidity I'm exposed to, which is what we'll get on to now. So free to play, Counter-Strike, and the same old shit arguments are being trotted out about why it's a bad thing, the key one you'll see repeated with absolutely no data points to support this. It's just considered conventional wisdom in the minds of a fucking moron. Is that it's free to play, so there'll be more cheaters now. The game will be inundated with cheaters. It'll be unplayable. Now, I've been around games for a long time. I've played old school games. I've played the new school games. The wave of free to play that came in. The idea, like, I've never seen anything suggested to me, that the level of cheaters in your game is proportionate to how much the game costs. You know, for example, I think we all know PUBG has had a fucking massive problem with cheaters in the past, to the point where it was getting so bad people were moving away in droves from the game. Well, you know, you have to buy PUBG. Equally, I've seen free-to-play games that don't seem to have a lot of cheaters in them just because of how the games are mechanically coded. You know, you see the odd scripter in Dota 2. I wouldn't say cheating in Dota 2 just because of how the game works on a mechanical level is a big issue, and it wasn't a big issue in League, and then when it became a bigger issue in League, Riot took all the scripters to court and basically had them all shut down. So this idea that just by virtue of being a free-to-play game, you're going to be inundated with cheating is not a conventional wisdom whatsoever. The psychology
you would also hope that it would scale up, right? The more money you make from the game, the more you have to put in the cheat protection. It's like that old thing that means that, like, if you there was once an old concept I heard explained, which is a pretty good one, which explains that basically you could never have, like, even the most strict totalitarian government ever can actually never stop things being like smuggled into the country because it literally just scales. However much more you make it, you'd have to bribe the guard. Well, then they just bribe the guard that because the good price of the goods goes up because you can't get the goods without it until they're smuggled in. So it just scales perfectly with that. So I would assume the same thing. As long as you actually make money for it being free to play, well, you put more money into the anti-cheat, and then you solve the problem. Right?
So I'll elaborate on that point in just a moment. But you need to talk about the psychology of why cheating occurs, and basically you can pretty much divide cheaters into two categories, and it's cheating for the purposes of griefing, okay, and cheating for the purposes
and people just trying to win ESL One Clone 2014. Yeah,
and
those
people,
two, right?
yeah, it's those two, yeah. And people who are cheating for status.
Similar,
right?
yes, that's
very similar, right?
Yes, yeah.
So what the people who cheat to grief, they don't care about you knowing they're cheating. They just cheat openly, brazenly, and they do it because making you annoyed is the kicker. It's the juice. It's what they get off on.
Nico just sat back now like, yeah, preach, sister. The way they just do it blatantly, making me annoyed.
Slay, queen! It's just to fucking annoy you, right? So the $15, let's not pretend, if you're the kind of person who plays video games solely for the purpose of griefing and that's what you get off on, let's not pretend the $15 or $5 when it was on a sale and people would stock up on accounts when it was on sale. Let's not pretend that was ever a hurdle to stop the griefers. Right? It never was. It never was. The difference between $3 and $5, if I want an account solely for the purpose of cheating, is very minimal. It's not a big deal at all. Now, if I'm cheating for status, any VAC ban of any kind, like if I want to fool you into thinking I'm good, and if I want to get all the plaudits and status, be it in a public community, a local community, or professionally, and every level in between, it's essential I never get banned. It's essential I hide my cheats as much as I can. Well, these people will very rarely why cheat? Why I'd rather cheat on something like an ESEA or an FPL. We just saw some more bans of high-profile people who were playing alongside cheaters recently because what they want, and probably cheated themselves, honestly. And what we want, what those guys want is to get noticed, maybe get onto a team, just bask in the adoration. A VAC ban to them is incredibly damaging. So what they do is they try and avoid making it obvious, making it blatant, and they only want one account, and they want to pay money for cheats and get away with it for as long as they can. So the people who cheat for status aren't part of this, imagined, perceived free-to-play wave. And the final point on that note is, have we ever seen anything that suggests the percentage of people who are likely to cheat at a game overplaying it fair increases when a game is made free? Never seen anything that suggests that. I've seen, actually, it feels like there's more cheaters because there's more players, but actually the percentage remains the same pretty much. So this prescribed wisdom, I mean, I saw it every time. If CSGO goes free to play, it will be hacker heaven. Absolute bullshit. There's just nothing to back that up as a thought process, and anyone who utters it is a fucking reactionary moron who's never thought about the issue at all on any deep level, and certainly doesn't interact with it on like cheating in games and business models in any real way. And here's the other thing: Valve have been deliberately waiting to where VAC got to a point where it's actually pretty fucking good. And this is the sin. This is the thing you can never say.
This is going to be clipped on VAC socks 1 second.
Immediately. But this is the thing.
Got his payment in. He's got his
this is the thing you can't say, right? for years, the community, rightly, have complained about Valve anti-cheat being ineffective. Everything that they do, it's about, the way that the model defers banning people because it's about the greater good. They'd rather have one guy disrupt your games for 3 weeks rather than instantly ban him because they think that they can get more people that way. So, yes, there's a period where the cheaters do get to run amok while they're trying to get more of them because people, have the cheat and then they think it's fucking, oh, it's safe. So more and more people use it, and then when the ban hammer comes down, it captures more people. A lot of people don't like that model of banning cheaters, but honestly, in terms of just getting a mass ban, it makes way more fucking sense to do it that way than to just ban people on site and basically tip off to cheat coders. Yeah, we got you, so now you got to recode that cheat, and they just will, and then maybe that one is avoids being detected, and then they get away with it for a bit longer because you have to wait for the next Valve update. It's always been a reactive technology. Now, what Valve did, they fucking said, you know what? Like, yeah, we're going to use machine learning or, all these like deep algorithmic coding and combined with Overwatch, which we've all been engaged in. I mean, by the way, the amount of people who say to me, CS is full of hackers, it's killing the game. And you go, do you ever do Overwatch? And they go, well, nah, what's in it for me if I do? You don't even get a skin for doing 10 cases a week. It's like, the reward is you get rid of all the cheaters, you daft cunt. That's what you're complaining about. That's what's ruining your enjoyment. The reward is you contribute to getting rid of the fucking people that you don't want in your game. But no, they don't do it, right? We want a reward, we want a skin. Like, fuck off. You're part of the problem, you fucking retard. Right? So they went away. They've got Overwatch now, so it takes the humans ticking on the boxes saying he's definitely cheating. That gets cross-referenced with the fucking machine learning, and they turn around and all of a sudden now people are getting automatic bans and Overwatch bans which aren't being overturned. And actually, I've talked to a lot of people that play matchmaking. I don't have time for matchmaking anymore. So full disclosure on that. But everyone is telling me there are less everyone credible is telling me there are less cheaters in their matchmaking games now than there ever have been. And the number of bans, you see, there was a big spike when this Valve technology for that got introduced, and we've had record numbers of bans, and now we're in a pretty good place. So what Valve did was they went away, they made VAC good, better, the best it's ever been, and then they went free to play. So a lot of these worries about, they're gonna, cheat is gonna be in every game. Maybe that'll be true at the start. Maybe we do get a wave of fucking people coming in who for some reason psychologically are different to everyone else on planet Earth and just want to cheat on day fucking one, right? They'll all get banned. Brilliant. So I'll just bring you in at that point. Your thoughts on free to play and the increase in cheaters, which I think is an absolute fallacy. This idea of the stakes are so low now with a free to play account, everyone will cheat. Like, fuck off, mate.
Like, I think free to play generally, it's hard to argue against it in the current climate because we've just seen how so many of the games that have gotten big, even ones that aren't like literally the biggest of the esports, even ones that are some of the like tier 2 and tier 3 esports, it just so clearly seems like it's the trend to make your game bigger. Like, obviously in CSGO case, it seems pretty likely it'll make it bigger because it's already a big game and now some people can play for free and try it out. So that's good in itself. My whole opinion on why it didn't happen in the first place is I've always said CSGO was a cynical cash grab, that they had no clue whatsoever would ever succeed. In fact, they thought probably died its ass after 2 years. So if anything, the original model for CS was explicitly get the money up front. Like, CS was basically like when you're going into a shit nightclub and you ask the bouncer, is there any good in there? And he goes, yes, all right, like, it's a lot in there, a lot of people in there having drinks in there, like a lot of
Irish pub it is.
And then, yeah, obviously, in Cork. And then when you get in there, obviously there's fuck all people there. You pay the door charge. I mean, you can't get that back. I mean, well, there we go. Maybe there's one little quiz to give people. Just tell like foreign tourists, like, yeah, if you don't like it in a nightclub, just go ask the doorman himself for the money back. He might give you it. Like, enjoy that. So my problem with this whole scenario is I do think it'll make the player base a little bit bigger. Maybe it'll help from the esports side. I'm not sure. I don't think it'll be that big a drastic an effect at the moment, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. The big problem I have is I'm unfortunately of the opinion that most people think this is the last step, right? You make it free to play and then everything just goes to the maximum. And so I would assume a lot of people are going to think, oh my God, now Asia's going to get fully involved, China, Korea. But as I've mentioned in past episodes, unfortunately, that's not even about the game being free to play. That's about, it has to be like installed on the machine, the people going to play, which means you have to have a partnership with the people who distribute the games in the country. You have to make a deal with the Lancet. So unfortunately, there's still a lot of steps that you'd have to take before you'll get like Asian people playing CSGO, basically, which is personally my main objective, because if you ever got that to happen, that's when this game would absolutely fucking supernova and be insanely huge. So still steps before that, but I can't really see why it's a negative. I mean, as you said, the whole cheater thing, by the way, first of all, it's just an entirely unfounded opinion. Like, if you think about it, where's the data to support that? Like, it's an example of where you can make up any theory for something, but, you know, it has to be tested out, doesn't it? Like, anyone can just come up with a hypothesis. Like, oh, what if
I've said it so many times, because you experience the game completely subjectively, and what you see on your screen bears no resemblance to what your opponent sees on their screen in a lot of situations. You do see that the same people who are talking about how there's a cheater in every game, these are the retards that sit in a fucking smoke thinking they're invisible while their feet are poking out the end. And they get banged through it and they go, report, easy report, and they have a fucking meltdown. Right? And it's like, no cunt's cheating. You're just a fucking moron. You're just an absolute fucking idiot. Right? That's, you know what I mean? And it's like, I mean, yeah, everyone's mentioning a certain pro. I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about your common or garden matchmaking player. Also, as well, the way Interpolate works and fucking pre-fire and stuff. Sometimes it looks like someone has just fucking ran around the corner, 180 fucking MLG, scoped you in the fucking face. When in actual fucking fact, on their screen, they've actually taken the time to aim and everything because they have that extra, you know, peeker's advantage. So, a lot of people that call out the volume of cheaters are just fucking idiots and are just too inexperienced at understanding the game and don't have the mental capacity to even step out of the, you know, themselves for just 10 seconds and go, oh yeah, but wait, when I have the peak, I'm sure people have called me out and I'm not. Right, yeah, okay, it's actually about the game. Sorry, I was just being stupid. You know, they'll never do that. So the other thing is the introduction of Prime, which I think, well, not the introduction of Prime, rather the changes to Prime that I think is a lot of people seem to be upset about as well. You know, more morons.
I didn't say this.
Okay, so if you remember going back to Team Fortress 2, Team Fortress 2 was part of the Orange Box, and you know, a game that you essentially had to play for. It then later went free to play, and they introduced cosmetic items. So what they had to do was.
Shit, right?
Yeah. So they created sort of two accounts. If you were an original player who had paid for it, you automatically got the upgrade to have like unlimited inventory. Whereas if you were a free to play player, you had a limited inventory. There were certain things in the game you wouldn't have access to, and it was basically to say, we understand you paid for the game, and these people that are playing on a free to play account didn't, so we're giving you something. Because obviously you have to retroactively apply a reward whenever you make a game free to play if it was, you know, purchasable at the start. And that's what the CS team has effectively tried to do here with Prime. Basically, if you remember what Prime was if you played X amount of games and added your own mobile phone number, so you would play with other Prime players. So the idea was that this would be experienced players who had some skin in the game on their account and wouldn't want to get banned, because then you got to get a new mobile phone number for another account, all of these issues. So it creates a better environment. Every player who has a CSGO account as of today has been upgraded to Prime. And people are going, oh, well, brilliant. Fuck all the legit players, eh? And it's like, well, what else can they do? That you'd be complaining that you got nothing if they didn't give you anything. Now, the other thing they've done is Prime. You can buy Prime status now. So the only two ways now for the free-to-play accounts and all future accounts to get Prime status is you have to, I think, play like to level 21 experience, which is, and add a mobile number, which is a fucking grind, right? Or you just buy it. So this is, like, for me, a really good thing. And I think it'll actually keep cheaters out of Prime, if you think about it logically. Because, first of all, if you just want to cheat to grief people, which is the majority of cheaters, why would you even put money on the account? You've got a free-to-play account. You'll stay in the free-to-play mode. Now, sure, it sucks for the people who don't want to play in Prime, but I'd say if you're a serious player and you want to, get good at the game and learn about Counter-Strike and have that competitive experience, I think Prime's the place you need to be anyway, right? So I think most cheaters just wouldn't even bother putting money on the game and just play until they get VAC banned and play in the free-to-play section. But also as well, the idea that now, you can just buy Prime and take that skip up, stop smurfing. Well, or rather, it reduces the impact of smurfing. So that's another positive. And again, this is a positive, people aren't really talking about. I think the changes to Prime are good. I think everybody who has an account now getting Prime, it was a necessary step to justify making the game free to play and to give a reward to existing players. But I honestly think the way Prime status is going to work is actually going to create a greater separation between, a certain type of cheater and a certain type of player. I don't know if you agree with that assessment.
This is exactly why it's so hard to do that hot takes, isn't it? Because basically you need almost like a fucking sociology degree to understand how people are going to take on these different circumstances and what they'll do and what the behavior would be, etc. So I don't know, it's a complicated one. The problem is, generally, because I actually don't consider myself really a gamer nowadays, because I don't play loads of games. I don't just play all the new games that come out, etc. So I'm not actually really sure what the public matchmaking experience would be like for anyone in general. I will say that's the one part I find kind of underwhelming about this announcement, is that it didn't come with some sort of announcement of and we've also retooled the matchmaking system and done X, Y, and Z. It's it's just the same game, but now you've got the free mode and the battle royale or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, we haven't even got to the Battle Royale thing yet, which we definitely will. But yeah, so I mean, for just overall feelings about free-to-play, I also think when you make your game free-to-play and you don't make any money off it anymore, like at purchase, at installment, it's actually indicative that I think Valve now, they have to create more content around the game, right? Or they don't make any money off the game. Sure, you can sell Prime, sure, you can put a case out there, but I honestly think it's a good sign long-term for the health of the game. I mean, sure, this is just a spike in curiosity. Right now, it's the #1 game on Twitch. It's ahead of Fortnite. I can't remember the last time I saw that. And that's without a tournament going on or anything. That's just people playing it and taking a look at it. But I think what'll happen now is that it's a free-to-play game and they need to make money off it. You'll start to see, more frequent operations, more frequent content being injected into the game. Because otherwise, you're just leaving that field fallow. You're not making any money off it. It's no coincidence as well. It comes off the heels of them launching Artifact, which I'm sure has been a big cash injection for Valve. People buying the game, people using the Steam market to sell cards and whatnot. I think we'll definitely start seeing more content being put into CS:GO as a result of it being free to play. And thought it was a bit weird. People objecting to there being a battle royale mode in the game.
That's
really strange.
I don't want to play it, so why is it in my game?
Here's the perfect example, right? That's like the people who go, they're bloody remaking this anime in a live action Western version. It's ruined. It's like, you are aware you could still watch your anime. That's not cancelled. They haven't deleted all that.
Not taking that away. You've got that.
And also, there's just an extra version now. And if you like that, which by the way, there's always a chance it could be good, might be good. And if it isn't good, move on with your life, maybe. I will say though, I am excited though, because obviously since Valve's now really updated their playbook and they're trying to really go properly esports and try to follow Fortnite, I'm waiting for them to announce that they're going to get rid of the majors, put all the money into an undisclosed amount for esports. At that point in time, Pasha will be a top pro once again. You and me will be in a team playing in the monthly fucking duos or whatever the fuck. We'll be a top team. We'll be like top 10 in the world, just us. And we won't have to do any esports anymore, because the thing is, in doing so, within a month, you'll be the face of esports. It'll just be you on Time Magazine, the face of a new sport. Just be you.
Can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, I mean, listen, I've said for a while, I think the old style of public play, it doesn't make any sense anyway. It doesn't really prepare you. If you play a casual public game, it doesn't prepare you for what a competitive game is like in any way, shape, or form. Some of the maps aren't balanced. To have 20v20, it's just a car crash. and yet we ported that mode over and that way of playing because it's how the game started pretty much and gained popularity. The battle royale mode is kind of the de facto mode. It's the de facto way people play. I mean, everybody's got an equivalent of battle royale now. And
that's what people forget about. It's like the part that's bizarre is people talk because again they forget their own circumstances. Like, if you're on CS:GO subreddit, you are actually, no matter even if you're the most casual fan of esports CS:GO, you're mega hardcore compared to the average player out there, especially the average gamer in general. Like, you have to realize that guy, if he goes in matchmaking for his first 10 hours of CS:GO goes, so this is CS:GO, his experience is going to be so shit compared to if he goes and plays any battle royale game. I don't blame him for going on. Like, what's clever about those games is they obviously occupy a massively untapped niche in the FPS market. The problem they have is they can't actually transition from that to anything like esports, precisely because they're created to satisfy a niche of casual players in the FPS market. Like, it's totally logical. So if anything, I think that's also a positive for CS:GO. People come in and play the stupid battle royale mode, and then if they actually like the engine and they like the game asset, maybe some of them transition over to the main game, in which case we're getting all, I mean, admittedly the least stupid of the morons, but we're actually getting more people in the game.
Yeah, and like you say, this is the other thing that people don't really, they never think about it. Again, people are so fucking like stupidly selfish. It's like, I like this game. I want to play this game. My experience matters. So free to play is bad for me because I might have a negative experience if I encounter a cheater. So fuck free to play. Let's not do free to play. But if the game doesn't sustain itself and bring in new players, right, the game dies. So you don't have a game. You don't have any enjoyment left. The game just dies, like so many games before it. And the moron doesn't think that far ahead.
They'll never figure that part out, Rich. It's like the people who were celebrating that all the ESL events didn't have high viewership on Facebook. Yeah. It's like I said on Twitter, you are just inadvertently celebrating the decline of your game. Like, CS:GO will die, and when it dies, and by the way, if someone like ESL ever leaves, God forbid, but like if this happens, your game will be dead. And in about 2 years, you'll be like the shitters in StarCraft 2, like, what do you mean dead game? One person watched the other day. It's like that's the world you'll be in if you complain about this.
Yeah, well, and it's like already people are saying, but CS:GO won't die. Again, idiots. It's like, CS:GO has been one of the most enduring formats for a game. It's been one of the most enduring, but people are still playing StarCraft 2, but where is it in terms of the global esports market space? It's way down the list. When they have a tournament at BlizzCon, it comes back into relevance like one time.
Don't you find it amazing people to this day literally don't understand the concept of hyperbole? Like, how can it be dead? People are playing it. It's like, fuck, when people are like, I'm going to interpret this literally. Every single word ever uttered is on some level a metaphor because it is not the thing it is. It's just a fucking mouth noise that a daft cunt who came out of a tree is now saying about 10 million years later. Like, Daily Star. Like, it's not really a star, is it? It's just a fucking word. So get it together. Anyway, that ends my 101 to...
And that ends my career.
Definitely doesn't end my career, mate. If that could end my career, it'd be over a long time ago.
But anyway, you look at like some of the ideas that have been implemented by like other games. I think we're definitely getting to a place where you might start seeing some of those things ported over now. I think having a mode that is basically like the de facto mode for any kind of shooting game now, bringing in new players and then pushing you into perhaps more competitive avenues of play is something we've needed for a while. I think if Valve do this and then also implement a mode where you could create your own ladders and leagues and have 5v5 teams registered to it, like you're starting to see now with Artifact, I can create my own tournament. Like I could message you and say, me and the boys want to play an Artifact tournament, and I create my own bracket. And we just schedule the games and play through. Like, having that ability in CS would be great if you had you could create your own league and ladder and your own teams, and the technology's definitely there, right? So I think this all bodes very well for the health of CS. Like, I just don't understand what the community want a lot of the time. Like, they say, we want more content in the game. We want an operation. You get a massive update like this with a completely new mode of play, and people are like, I don't like it. It's different. It's like, No. The whole point is, you're agitated about the game stagnating. This is why, by the way, historically, Valve will never admit this, but I know it to be true. One of the reasons why Valve are always reluctant to update Counter-Strike is the amount of fucking whining and bitching that goes on when even a minor fucking change is introduced to a game. Even something like a Battle Royale mode, which doesn't affect competitive in any way, shape, or fucking form. Think about what Dota players have to go through on a fucking... on a now monthly basis. Here's a massive patch. Remember that hero you're really good on? Dog shit now. Remember, you got to go away and remember that item that was core to that build doesn't exist. You have to just fucking deal with it. Every fucking, every time a new patch comes out, the game fundamentally changes. And while you see Dota players whining a little bit, nothing compared to Counter-Strike. Nothing compared to Counter-Strike, where it's even got to the point where Valve have had to wholesale roll back changes or introduce CVARs so you can not play the game the way the developer intends because the Counter-Strike community is so fucking sensitive to change. And then they sit around going, yeah, this game's boring for some reason. I can't quite put my fucking
game they
finger on
bought
it.
like 4 years ago for $10 when it was on sale. They're like, why aren't I getting more free content out for this? How long is this going to last for?
And the CS community is just never going to grow up in that regard. It feels like we hit a point on an evolutionary level collectively as a community, and we never really go past that. We never really go past it, and it's a big part of the problem. They just parrot the same fallacies at each other, and it really puts Valve off updating the game. Now, I think that's got to change for the sake of business now that it's free to play, but. Holy fucking shit, can we just have some new stuff in the game? Let's get some new maps. Let's get some new modes. Let's get some new guns. Let's go ham on this motherfucker. Why not? The game's fucking ancient now in esports terms. Can we have some fresh stuff coming in, please? So more and more people might want to play it. You know what I mean? I don't want a fucking soul-destroying future where, the year is 2028. The only esport is Fortnite. The state mandates that at the end of every fortnight you must do the dance. Fucking get me out. I want real esports games to fucking exist and prevail going forward, and that's fucking Counter-Strike. So please, let the developer update the game and put some cool shit in. If you don't like it, fucking just walk on by. You don't have to play these new modes. New gun comes in. Oh, I've got to learn a new meta game. Yeah, same thing every MOBA player does. You fucking prat. You're talking about how high level fucking CS is, but you don't want to learn about new recoil patterns or new updates or this or that. It's unreal sometimes, man. So, and people are going, oh, this is just low-hanging fruit. You're one of the daft cunts who says stuff like that. If you think that's low-hanging fruit, if you don't think that's the fucking norm, if you don't think that's actually the norm when you go on a subreddit, just a circle jerk of the stupidest opinion, then I don't know what to tell you. You're not looking at the same
let's go
page.
the other way. We will only be addressing one-off opinions by people accredited by the fucking Geneva Society of behavioral scientists. Shut the fuck up, low-hanging fruit. This is a show where we just half the time we just imply flush and cheats. You daft cunt, little shitheads you go. Imagine he cheated. I can't believe they said that. It's been saying it for about 5 years now. You absolute mess. What are you on about low-hanging fruit? Get this low-hanging fruit dragging across your face. Get the fuck out the channel. I can't handle it. I'll never banned. I know, ban them all. Just ban them all. I'm like that guy. Ban them all. Let God decide.
So look, let's wrap up. Let's wrap up talking about the update. I'll get your final.
Yeah, let's wrap up the show because we've covered Dota and Battle Royale. So that's the end of the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is brought to you by Rival GGG.
Yeah. Now all I need to do is get. They whine about things people say on Twitter for 20 minutes every show. That's the new fallacy about what the podcast
whining
is.
about us, whining about that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, let's do that then. But yeah, so just do you have any final thoughts about the update? Just a general perception of what this is going to do for us moving forward as an esport.
It's like I said, I actually don't think the impact will be as drastic as people imagine. You can't just think, oh, it's free to play. Now everyone who plays Fortnite will play CSGO. Definitely not. Part of the success of these games, by the way, especially when they get to the level of a game like that, isn't even down to the developer. There's a snowball viral element that they couldn't even have predicted that takes over. So hopefully it will. My hope is this. People want to play a battle royale. Maybe some of them know the Counter-Strike brand and maybe the engine's better, so they just enjoy playing the battle royale. Sounds fine to me. Hopefully, it just feeds a few more people into CS:GO, as in some people play the battle royale or the game anyway from matchmaking and gradually peter their way into the main esports side. I'm not really concerned about stuff like the cheating angle and all the rest of it. I mean, it's just no real basis to know what it'd do in that sense. You'd have to wait and see. So I think it's like a mildly decent update. No big deal.
All right.
Not the end of the world. We'll see.
Okay, so you probably didn't know this because it has fallen from grace in a way few things have in Counter-Strike, but DreamHack Winter happened. Did you see this?
Every year it just gets more and more depressing, doesn't it? Remember, the last one was won by a Na'Vi. That was actually, there's still some good teams at that point in time. Now they're just like, wow, can you believe the team from South Africa made it? It's like, who else is fucking there? Like, what Jax didn't stop him? Fucking hell. What, that guy on Mortal Kombat 2 didn't lock up and just rip his head off? Why am I using references from like 1993 or something? Like, everyone in here was just about to get spunked out at that point in time.
While they were watching Mortal Kombat 2.
Exactly. Yeah. And then their dad was like, Babality. Another reference to a game they don't know. So whatever. It was a good game, that's all I'm telling you.
Classic Babalities, man. Yeah. So I mean, like I guess this is a general point. I mean, like, I don't know what's going on over at fucking DreamHack or why they can't get bigger teams in attendance to what should have been.
The weird thing, I'd like to know your take on this. I've actually heard people say that, because I actually really worried last year when this began, when DreamHack had to launch the DreamHack Masters brand 2 years ago, it was already clear that, like, oh shit, even they realize like their circuit is dropping off big time, because what they've done by making the Masters one is sort of tell pro teams like, no, but we're gonna have a tournament for you guys still, and it'll have what you guys want, the money in the spectacle, But every year you've seen the open circuit is like worse and worse teams, and it's smaller, and there's not as much emphasis on it. But what's bizarre is I have heard it implied by some people that like the business model works so, like that DreamHack's actually happy with it, and that the viewership's. Do you think that could be true? You think that it's actually like they've found some niche of their own or something?
I mean, listen,
actually dying out.
I think honestly, like the situation that DreamHack have is that when they were kind of folded into MTG. ESL and ESEA seem to be allowed to spend big and lose money. DreamHack seems to be the one that has to be prudent out of all the brothers and sisters in the family. They're the ones who have to live within their means. So I think definitely there are budgetary constraints. I mean, you see that reflected in the prize pool. Their prize pool hasn't scaled with the scene at all. So that's kind of one reason why you probably don't get the top teams there. I also think... Sure. There is a. This will tie into something we're going to talk about later in the podcast with the oversaturation thing, the perceived oversaturation thing. But honestly, in terms of getting to Jönköping in Sweden,
that's a joke.
I mean, listen, I've gone to a lot of DreamHack Winters. Now, back when the calendar was Spartan and there wasn't a lot of events going on, it made sense that you would go to a DreamHack Winter, even though you would have to, you get to Sweden, then you've got to get on a fucking bus that rides through the night for 3-4 hours to Jönköping, and then when you're in Jönköping, there is nothing there, you might get taxis if you're lucky, if you want to go into town and do some shopping. You have to stay in that one hotel that's across from the venue. And this was part of a deal that... DreamHack made back in the very early days of gaming. It went to Jönköping, which is considered like, the Bible Belt of Sweden, if you like. It's a very, rural place. What Robert Oland did was genius by creating a sort of deal with the people there, so much so that he got the key, to the city or the town rather, by the mayor, and he slowly but surely, I mean, it's inextricably.
And then the mayor
linked.
told him, if you're the last one out, turn the fucking lights out on this pump.
Yeah, but he's it was inextricably linked to the economy now of the settlement. So back in the day, that all made sense. It was like, going to Mecca, of esports. It was like biggest. You know, it was the biggest fucking. It's the biggest LAN party. No, I mean even now, I think it's still on record as being the largest LAN party ever. You know, ever. Bigger than anyone that's ever been held anywhere else in the world. So it's like it's a hugely important event within the term of esports. But now that esports is in the mainstream and we're filling up arenas and all that stuff you've heard a million times from like the white papers that are floating out there, the prospect of having to travel 4 hours on a nighttime coach to get to a fucking rural area where there's like fuck all to do except play your games into an event, a tournament that's kind of folded into a LAN party. I just think the DreamHack Winter and Summer, because of the venue and all the issues that come with it, it's kind of lost a little bit of its luster. I don't think top teams really want to go there anymore. I mean, I think it would still be a test even if this was a $250,000 prize pool rather than the $100,000 that it is.
If you notice, we have seen that in the scene. Like, I've been amazed at some of the tournaments this year, Rich, that had literally double or triple the prize money, especially for first place of like Dream Masters or ESL One, etc. Some of these events that are like not the biggest names have more prize money and have not had the teams. Like nowadays, it looks like the teams have reached that threshold where, because they're all making enough in salary and all the rest of it, they don't go just by prize pool anymore. They go based on what they think is prestige and what you get the most viewers from. So I think we're in a new world in that sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, just to read you like an attendee list. I mean, okay, Optic, LDLC, G2, Complexity, Existence Galaxy, Heroic, Bravado, and Ensa. So, I mean, this is, you can see immediately it's not a fucking like top tier tournament in terms of attendees by any fucking stretch of the imagination. And keep in mind, this was formerly a major. I mean, that's what I mean when I talk about fall from grace. This was a tournament that was so well established in the competitive calendar. Like winning a DreamHack Winter was prestigious in its own right. And obviously played an integral part in CS history. I don't know what you can do to revamp it because of the problems that I just talked about. But certainly DreamHack you're right. I think they're focusing more on their Masters circuit now because that seems to be where they're putting the money. And DreamHack Winter seems to be something that operates solely because of a deal that was made, for however many years back at a time when they couldn't have foreseen all of the changes to esports. So yeah, it's one of those tournaments where it was like I couldn't even believe it was happening. I was like, fuck, is it DreamHack Winter? Fuck yeah, I guess it is. And it was just like, there was no build up, no hype, no one really gave two fucks about it going on, but I forced myself to watch it anyway. So we can talk about some of the results. Let's talk G2. And what was interesting is this was because we've seen two G2s at the moment. For the ESL finals, it's the old G2, but this was the new G2. This was the G2 with Jax and Lucky. So the team is Jax, Kenny S, Body, Lucky, and Shocks. And man, they had a fucking terrible time. They had a really, really terrible fucking time. They narrowly beat Enter, or Ents, the Finnish guys. Well done. They lost to the South African 16-13 on Nuke. And then they got beat by the Finns in a best of 3, 2-0. And I want to say, if anybody watched the Bravado G2 game, wow, Body had a fucking nightmare. Body had some rounds. So it was just like, how's this guy a fucking player? Didn't know where plant spots were on the site. Missing easy kills. There was like a ton of clips coming out where he was just horrible. So this is the problem you've got here. This is G2. Their first outing is like the new team. Ocelot saying trust the process. These are the guys. Well, actually, they probably looked worse than the old G2 did against a much better caliber of opponent out at the ESL finals right now. And it leaves a lot of question marks about the future of this team because there were some players. I mean, Jax looks to be a good pickup, all things considered, but Shock still couldn't find his mojo, because he needs to absolutely carry. Lucky didn't look great. Body had some nightmare rounds, even though statistically wasn't terrible. I just think this is a really uninspired team. I do not see it doing anything.
Yeah, the problem with the team is I just don't really see what the premise of the squad is. Like, I mean, we've already discussed it on the last episode. If anything, they left it way too late to make changes like that. Like, if anything, they waited until literally the entire pool of players you would want, like big names, aren't available anymore. Obviously, very lackluster performance, specifically because of the level of competition. Like, there's no shame going out in the group stage, but you've got to have quality teams there.
Yeah.
Like, the teams that you're facing now are teams that you made these moves dictated primarily to beat. Like, it should already be a given that you're ahead of every team in this tournament. Remember, the only team in this tournament, in theory, in terms of name value, that should be anywhere on the level G2's on is like Optic Gaming, maybe. That's about it. Even ENCE is like a punch above their weight. They're actually overperforming for what they should be able to in terms of resources, background, number of big names. So the idea that like G2 chose to make this move, but this is a pretty whack result. Obviously, it's the first tournament. To be fair, EPL, you're playing with the old lineup, so who knows what the practice situation was like? Who knows how much time they've had to implement everything? Obviously, not going to write them off after win one tournament, but it's a pretty auspicious start because actually, when you make the kind of move they've made, which is Shock saying, like, I'm the in-game leader, just get in 2 players to frag people, that's exactly the sort of lineup should be working almost immediately. Like, the reason why I gave so much space to the old G2 lineup is because they at least came in from day one saying, right, we'll bring it in existence, we're going to bring in a whole system, it's going to take time. Like that wasn't just like a story they came up with to get by time. It was really the logic. So like it hasn't looked great from the first outing. Like it's got to be a massive step up in the next one. Otherwise, I personally think this G2 lineup is going to fail. I'll just say it outright. Like just like the old G2, if they can somehow get Kenny S and Shocks to be very good, it will definitely have a puncher's chance. But that requirement number 1 was never reached in the original G2, and so far hasn't been reached in this G2, if I'm being honest.
Well, I mean, and with the added advantage now that it looks like because Shocks is fucking running, we have to deal with Shocks being completely fucking subpar as well. I think about where he was, at least in the old G2, Shocks was dropping fucking 30s and 40s, and now he's like, barely scraping 20s, 15s. And he's the guy that you absolutely need to be fragging out of control alongside Kenny S, I would say, for this team to really function. And, it's just history repeating itself. People making the same mistakes over and over again. Shocks isn't a fucking guy that's going to lead from the front. He needs to just be an instinctive player. That's when he's at his best. Just a real bad first outing for this G2 team, and I'm not convinced they're ever going to make a step up. I think this is G2's level until they break away from the French project. I think right now, just the French scene in general has fallen back into its old ways. The best players, the ones you can see that clearly you could put 5 together and make a world-class team, a top 5 team tomorrow, they're all bickering and not wanting to play with each other and, stuck into their own projects. And honestly, I mean, with the LDLC hype train being immediately derailed here at DreamHack Winter, losing to Existence, Galaxy, and Heroic, I'm not even going to dignify talking about it. All those people who were thinking LDLC were like, the best team in France. Like, definitely not. But like Vitality are probably going to out-improve this G2 team. And that's sad because we know how lackluster they've been in some of their games, even if you look at it and their record looks good.
Well, one flaw this team has as well, like the new lineup of G2, not the one that's playing at EPL at the moment, I was even thinking this the other day, is like basically the premise for this team is like if you're Malak, the new coach in the team, when he joined like a month or 2 back, you actually in some ways have played this well, but also badly. Because on the one hand, if it succeeds, you're going to get a lot of the credit because it seems as though you were instrumental in picking up the players, in making some of the changes. I don't know if you saw, it was implied from the Existence Twitlonger and from I think a statement of someone else that it was Malak who decided that Shocks becomes the in-game leader or some bullshit like that, which again, you never know these stories because for all we know, that's when Shocks told Malak, and now you will go out and say that you decided, you don't know the way things are behind the scenes, but okay. So in that world, Malak will get a lot of the credit if the team turns out to be good. If it turns out to be terrible, he also has to take a lot of the blame. So he's actually kind of put a lot of pressure on himself as a coach. Because when you look at this lineup and bringing in 2 players who are new, like obviously Jax is actually not young in terms of age, but in the game he's very inexperienced. He hasn't played for very long, and Lucky's a guy most people never heard of. Well, another thing you want with young players is you want them to be around players they can learn from, not just even from watching by example, but hopefully explicitly, like someone takes them aside and says, no, I do it like this instead, or, I used to play your role in the past, so here's the things you do. When you look at the squad they have, And the downside is there's nobody in this G2 who's capable of doing that. Shox is not a particularly articulate person. That's why he doesn't make for a great in-game leader. Obviously, you look at the other ones. Body's a very quiet player, by the way, and he's pretty inexperienced himself. I know he's got a couple of years under his belt now, but he's hardly a veteran. And then Kenny S is an incredibly quiet player who's more like the kind of guy who just wants to frag and just get on with the game and not discuss it. So, like, your actual sort of like, what would you even call it, like knowledge base or something in the game, or like a level of like ability to pass on things and to craft a team. It's not very good with this squad, actually. Like, this squad really is just kind of like throw a bunch of players together, just hope they start playing well. Or Malik is having more input than I know, and he's going to be the guy who masterminds the whole project. So I don't think personally there's a lot of future with this squad. But then again, I don't. It's one of those scenarios where I have no clue what the real vision behind it is. Like, here's an example, okay, of where if you want to be Ocelot and you want to tweet about CSGO, because here's the thing, people in other games stay in their fucking lane. Like, if they're people who come from League of Legends and they have an org and their team has a CSGO team, they only comment when the team's doing well, basically. Like, oh, look, our team's in the final. Like, yeah, that's fine. But also made it sound like, fans, I will take care of this. I will get us back to our winning ways. It's like, this move doesn't suggest in any way you have. And even worse, you haven't given any reason as to why you've done it. And the reason, if you're a top person in an org, can do so much. Like, even if you just told people something like this, look, listen, this might not be the final lineup. We're testing out players now, so we're giving these young guys a chance. We're going to see if any of them make it. If they do, we'll be remodeling the team. Maybe even throwing a line. Here's a great example, Ocelot. Tell people stuff like, you know what? Even people like Kenny S aren't guaranteed to be in this team. Like that Nip guy did. Everyone's job is potentially on the chopping block, so they have to perform. That would be a great way to spin what would be the exact same lineup and the exact same time span it would play. But at the moment, it just looks to me like you were like, oh shit, the old lineup didn't work out. Get some players. Well, there aren't any players available. Come on, you must know someone. It's like, what is this?
I mean, I don't necessarily believe this, but do you think we've got to a point where, like, because of, you know, how well G2 are doing in all of their areas, and obviously they're going to be a part of the, you know, European
LEC,
franchising and League of Legends, anything else, do you think we've got to a point where Ocelot's kind of a bit disinterested in how, you know, CS has panned out for him? I mean, it started out promisingly, but the last year it's probably been an expensive flop. And, you know, I don't believe this about Carlos. I think he wants to win in pretty much every game, and I think he takes a lot of pride in being able to say we're the most successful esports organization. But maybe in terms of priorities, it's more about like, let's, you know, we've got these guys signed to pretty long contracts. Let's just fucking keep going and see what happens.
I mean, here's the thing. I definitely don't think CSGO is the main priority as a game. But I do think that, as you said, like, Ocelot does seem like, first of all, as someone who has no basis in Counter-Strike, he does seem like he genuinely likes the game. Like, he's one of those people. One of the things I always appreciate about the outside owners, the guys from COD, etc., is when they come into CSGO, it's actually because they think it's a good game. It's not even usually just as a cynical cash grab for the CSGO being a big esports side of things. There's not that many people who did it for that reason. But I certainly don't think that this was like a plan that he had anything to do with. I think this smacks of like delegation and someone else doing this move. But more importantly, I can't really even blame him entirely, because obviously in this particular scenario, who the fuck knows what does work in the French scene? Who knows how you make it? Like, it's kind of like you were saying before about the CSGO thing when you had a new gun. So on the same at the same exact time that everyone just goes, why doesn't the French scene ever try any young talent out? Why don't they ever try new players out? The second you don't announce that Scream's joined the team, why isn't Scream in the team? Headshot Machine, he is a really good player. It's like, you can't win, can you? Like, people, I said this last time, people wanted Kiyashima and Scream to be in both of these lineups. When I have repeatedly given you like explicit reasons people would not want to play with these people, but just because their name is Scream and Kiyashima, they have to be in the lineup because one won a major, the other was a Headshot Machine. It's like, you can't win with the fans. So in that sense, I don't blame Ocelot. It's kind of like poison chalice in that sense. You either try new people out and they potentially fail and you look like an idiot, or you keep sticking with the old names and then everyone goes, why did you bloody recycle talent? It's like, you can't really win on that one. And at the moment, there's no real good answer. Like, but then again, to be fair, they did paint themselves into a corner on this one. Like, what I'll say about the G2 topic is this. Yes, because there's no players available, that's why it didn't make sense to make this particular lineup change now. If anything, what that suggested was, and I'm not using this as like a sunken cost fallacy, is like, why not just give the other lineup 2 months and then see where you're at, you know, and then say, right, which I'm sure they already did internally, but you know what I mean? Like, at this point in time, you may as well just see if there was anything left in that lineup, because this one doesn't look like it's doing much. And even worse, there's no quick short time frame pivot to make the team really good, which is what you want. If you go from the old lineup and it failed, you want to just come out with the blockbuster like look, we got MBK back, we got this guy, and it's going to be sick, and we got Z-Wook. You're not going to do any of that, are you? So at the moment, it's just a bunch of nothing is G2. Like I'm going to watch him, but I don't expect anything for a while now.
And just while we're wrapping up on the G2 and the French scene talk, obviously it appears that Smith's announced his retirement.
Love that, by the way.
Today.
Love that. This little cunt, right? So he's already in the group with Skadoodle, a whole bunch of people, right? Where it's like, I've been kicked from the team. Well, I retire from ever playing the game again, right? I'll give you a little tip for team owners out there. If a player, and I'm talking about, it's not like they're a legend, you know, and they're 2 years old and they just won the major. If a player under normal circumstances just gets cut on a very day-to-day level, like, listen, your service is not required anymore, and they go, right, well, I'll just stop playing Counter-Strike entirely. You waited too long to cut them. They should never have been in your team. Like that decision to retire should come when you cut them. They go to another, like, you know, half decent team. They try and make it, and then they go, actually, my heart's not in the game. I'm going to quit. Like, if you just straight up retire like Skadoodle, like Smiths did, they're just like actually low key admitting they were just stealing checks for the last year.
I mean, you know, what I was
not
gonna...
only that, why do the cunts who want to steal checks always have to use the most expensive gun in the game? So basically, Skadoodle and Smiths are the fucking Russians of matchmaking. Just like, drop me up. It's like, you have 2 kills. You can't even speak English, and you actually annoy me. I'll get a fucking Mac 10 and hit you for 28 in the head for 3 rounds and not get banned. Anyway, I'm giving away too much about my matchmaking strategy there.
You are just mentally ill, like. It's good. It's fine. Yeah, drop up. No, I'm not gonna get banned. Fuck off. Yeah, brilliant. Can't wait to play with fucking. Can't wait to fucking play with 9th Wonderbanger again. So anyway, what the fuck was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so I'll add this, right? Like I think you know, we talked a lot about the psychology of the CS community on this podcast. There is definitely a higher percentage of cuckolds in CS. And people who obviously would get off to cuckold porn than in any other esport. I think we can safely say that because the way
amount of people who'd let Pasha fuck their wife is unreal in this game.
Yeah, it's through the roof. And why do you say that, Richard? Well, let's be clear, right? Like, what was Yo Les Noob? Right? What was Yo Les Noobs? Yo Les Noobs was
Marie's nightmare, man.
Well, it was, yeah, it was Sweaty Moretti having a nightmare, right? Like, but you know, what was Yo Les Noobs? It was a player who was playing badly, inarguably playing badly, basically expressing his utter contempt and disdain for anyone who said he was playing badly by making excuses and implying that in recognizing he was playing bad, you were actually a noob and shit at the game, right? It was a express of you know, absolute disdain. Now, first of all, that usually would make you deeply unpopular with the community. Like, for example, when we call them all daft little cunts, you know, the community, I fucking hate you. You're just trying to stay irrelevant, old man. Yeah. Fuck off, you know. But when someone like Smiths fucking says all your opinions are garbage, you're in a tomorrow, and everyone goes, but he said Yo Les Noobs, which wasn't actually. It literally wasn't like a funny line he said. It was literally just like, yo, you are noobs. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'll make a funny phrase. So basically, he retired by saying, bye, Les Noobs. So, you know, doubling, tripling down on his utter contempt for the community. And in the replies, everyone's like, oh, God, gonna miss you. Smith's gonna miss you so much. Fuck my wife, Smith.
Shit in my mouth more, please.
I'm in the closet looking through a crack. Please, Smith's. Like, fuck me. You guys are pathetic. Like, you guys are fucking so pathetic. Like, that a player who literally says all your fucking opinions are fucking garbage, and you're like, oh, please. Like, it's ridiculous.
I've always loved fans like that in general. Like, let's be real. Over this last G2 lineup, except for like at the very beginning where like ESL Cologne actually had a couple of good games, bizarrely, which were like, what the fuck? Is he actually going to be decent? Smiths was utterly terrible on a level I don't think we've ever seen. Like, literally, In this G2 lineup, Smiths was a contender for worst pro player ever in CSGO, especially, by the way, pro-rated against his salary. Like, unbelievably bad how much he was getting paid. You know what I mean?
A new metric coming
exactly.
to Duncan Shields'
Value
website.
per pound.
Yeah.
Exactly.
His salary is this, his stats are this.
Per dollar, he is the shittest cunt of all time.
Mate, I would love to see that, by
It'd be
the
amazing,
way.
wouldn't it? Yeah.
I would love to see that. But
anyway,
yeah.
It was just dreadful, wasn't it? So, like, the idea that he has the gall to even do it. And then people just tell him, oh, miss you. What are you going to miss? The only people missing is this cunt. That's the problem.
Well, I'm going to miss the Edward I know from,
He's still alive. He can come to events, stand behind.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Duxie, you just said noobs into Ed, and you did not have me going -20 to offset you. And then he go, I miss you, Edward. It's not the same with this Jax in my team. I love you too. Whatever, I'll keep that
going. I mean,
right,
listen, you're right. You're right. Like,
I know.
This is the key. This is the key fucking problem. Like, when players like don't fucking transition into another role or don't, like he could have been a coach. Remember, he was a coach for a time, but immediately as soon as the door was open to come
allegedly,
out, he did it. Yeah, allegedly, right?
I don't know why he was coaching like what. Isn't that so
social media posting?
How many fucking checks has this cunt stole? There was the whole coaching time where apparently he was on the same money as the players as well, by the way. Then he came back as an actual player, still dog shit, still getting paid all the money in the world. Then at the end of it, after he's literally had like 2 years of making like who knows what, like 20K a month, doing absolutely fuck all the fans are like, oh, bloody hell, I miss you. Like, I can't handle it. Why is it like this, Rich? Why is the world like this? Listen, move out the way, give some other person a chance to fucking shine, you greedy little twat.
Well, it's happening now. But I just think, there's a lot of these players you've just got to know when to move on. Otherwise, you end up inadvertently tarnishing your legacy, which would be a problem if you didn't have a fawning community of shit-eating cuckolds. Whatever. But yeah, I hope to see him again in the future. I hope he stays involved in CS in some capacity.
Yeah, stay alive. Dude, remember that? Remember at the end of that episode when we had GB James, and I was so triggered by all the shit arguments he was making. At the end, you go, have you got any last comments? And I just go, stay in good health or something. Like that was about the only thing I could come up with as like a positive.
Yeah. Good health.
Yeah. No, I think it was even more just like I said, yep, hope you don't die. Just something like that.
That was like the key ending to the episode, yeah.
Callback. All right, so let's talk about Optic. I mean, they had a fucking nightmare as well. They lost to Bravado in a close game, admittedly, but still. I know disrespect to Bravado. Like, I don't sleep on, the South African, esports teams. Obviously, they don't get to go to a lot of lands because of the, sponsorship and everything. And there was a lot of people saying, they've actually got some decent players here. But again, when you think about Optic and you think about the players and you think about the likes of Config and Gage and B, no disrespect to Bravado, who had a great run, made it all the way to the final. It's just embarrassing, frankly. It's just embarrassing with all the resources and salary and experience. Optic should be beating them. Now, sure, it's a best of one, so there's a caveat there. But Optic also lost a series, and again, they've lost to Ensa a few times. They've lost to them a few times now in sort of decent-sized tournaments. And they go out the tournament having won just one map from 4 played. We've been talking about this Optic team for a while right now. Like, I mean, it feels like it's a prison for certain players. And again, it comes back to that question. People were saying, "Oh, imagine if Snappy had better players around him than he did in Heroic. What would he do?" Evidently, he'd make an unbelievably mediocre team, misrepresenting one of the largest brands in esports, and fucking again like stealing checks for not a lot of fucking product. Where are we at with Optic right now? I mean, I know they've got a lot of stuff going on internally in terms of management restriction, but is it time to, like, what? Let's roll the dice again, or can something be sculpted out of this team? I mean, they've definitely got players like Cajun and Config that are good enough for my money. Yugi was terrible like 3 months ago, but he actually is playing sort of okay again now. So
Like the problem is this lineup is absolutely 100% done. Like you look how long it's been together. It's been quite a while. They've had a lot of lands, and like it's not even like they have a crazy upside. Like their best results is like second at CS Summit and like top 4 at the Star Series that didn't have a lot of good teams at it. Like they haven't even won in the sort of depleted fields that they've been to where they've had their good results. So if that's your best day, and then your worst day is going out last place, second to last group stage in loads of tournaments, come on, man. You can't argue with results like that at the end of the day. There's no real extenuating circumstances you can give that give them an excuse, especially because tying into the G2 thing, this is a team that has resources. This is a team that has a lineup for a long time. This is a team that has veterans. It has young players. It seemingly had all the pieces it needed to succeed. And if you look at the squad at the moment, right, first of all, that Yugi guy just never showed up to Optic. And that guy just died on his way out of Heroic. I don't know what happened to him. He used to be a pretty promising player there. Yeah. Never made it to Optic. In Optic itself, Config been pretty underwhelming, to be honest. He's had maybe a couple of events that were good. He was shit at this event, DreamHack. He just never been the star player he was when he was in North once upon a time, where at one point in time he might even have been the best Danish player. He looked very, very strong last year. Like generally all around it's a bit depressing. And if you look at the current situation, like off the top of my head, when the first group of Danes signed, I'm pretty sure if any of them are on 1-year contracts, that the contracts must be coming up soon. So they might even be viable to kick people, cut the whole roster, which is not got to be an option when you consider the downsizing they did within Infinite and Optic as a team. Like at this point in time, if I'm them, minimum, you've got to make a roster move. Like this team just hasn't worked. And I don't want to put it all on Snappy, because certainly, as I just said, 2 of his big names didn't perform there. But unfortunately, I always make this case about in-game leaders. Being an in-game leader is just like being the coach or the manager of a top sports franchise. If you lose enough, it doesn't matter if it was actually the players that did it. You will also be removed. Like, you're just not going to get to stay there through bad results. Like, if you have what people perceive as pieces that you can win with and you don't win, you will rightfully get caught and they'll say, right, you have to try your luck elsewhere. So, personally, I think even Snappy being removed might be the next move, because when I've looked at the squad, probably the most underwhelming thing about the games I've seen them play is, first of all, they don't come with the firepower they need, and the names suggest they'd have. But even worse, they don't look like a particularly great tactical team or a team that has like a great map pool. They got a lot of flaws for a team that's been together this long.
Yeah, but listen, where did it come from? Where did this myth about Snappy being a great tactician, where did that start?
It's because think about it, right? If you think logically in the Danish scene, so you obviously had in the past, it was like Carrigan was the leader of TSM, or Fetish was, and then the second team was obviously always North and Dignitas, which was MSL's team. And at the time, since the scene was way smaller, realistically, even the second best team in Denmark, that was about the highest you were going to go as a pro. Like anyone else was a semi-pro or whatever. So yes, the old storyline for MSL was like, obviously he's not going to have the top players because TSM or Astralis get them. So he has to work with the lesser talent. And if he can craft the right lesser talent into a good team, he can get some upsets and do things, which is what MSL did for most of his career up until North, basically, when they got all the funding and they had a pretty legit team themselves. So for some bizarre reason, because Heroic came along and slotted in as like the third Danish team, people used the same logic. They were like, right, well, Snappy must be like crafting these guys out of nothing and making them good. Whereas I have to say, if you look at the players Snappy's had, so Valde looked great when he was in Heroic. Has looked even better when he's in North, arguably, even under MSL. You look at someone like, obviously he's got him back now, but he had Nico when he's in Heroic. Hasn't really looked particularly different in Optic and Heroic, you know, like Yugi's actually looked worse now. So like the problem with that is, like, I could give some grounds that he was doing a decent enough tactical job and he was doing a decent job with the pieces he had. But I get the feeling that maybe Snappy's just not the right person to take people to the next level, which, by the way, is obviously what also ended up happening to MSL. You know, once he did give him all the resources, it was like, oh, right, no, you can make a lot out of nothing, but can he do more than that? And so with Snappy, I'm not even sure the narrative fully fit in the first place anyway, even though I probably did apply it myself a little bit because they had some good results. But yeah, I don't really know where that angle comes from.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's a lot of rumors circulating that there's going to be big changes coming to Optic on a managerial level. I think it's been, floated that after everything that happened, like everything that's happened with this, fucking Infinite ownership. Apparently, there's likely to be some, cuts in terms of management.
I feel bad for them in the sense that, like, at least this Optic lineup on paper. I mean, I realized they had Gage before Nico, but like, whatever. It's not that big a difference. I actually did think when I saw it on paper this could do something. Like I looked at these names, I was like, hey, it's not a bad team. It's actually some quality here. Like you could be pretty competitive, and they have.
But yeah, that's the key though. It's not a bad team. This isn't like if you gave me these players and said, you've inherited this team like as a legacy for your organization, I'd be pretty fucking happy about it. I'd think, okay, I can do something with this. But you need your in-game leader to fucking be able to get some production.
And you've got to say as well, by the way, think about how telling it is that even though North on paper has a worse lineup arguably in this one, North's way better. Like North's actually had some decent results,
Undoubtedly.
So and if you want to look at the managerial side, I can tell you which one looks like they're killing it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I agree. I think this team that's really underachieved, given and I just don't know how much longer you can tolerate it. I mean, certainly Optic, they've made more brutal cuts for a lot less. Let's put it that way. So whatever. Let's talk about some more disappointments. Complexity. Another hype train.
What an underwhelming team, right?
Well, I saw the tweet out by Stan, I think it was, who said this is like this is rock bottom. Because so again, just to give you a rundown on the results, they lost to Heroic to best of one. It was on Nuke, whatever. But it's the 2-0 against the Swedish team Existence Galaxy, like a 2-0 and a best of three from a team that had this, run at the major and, has looked pretty ordinary since then. And there were just there's just some fundamental issues. Like I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think Complexity with Stan as an in-game leader and even Shazam as their primary AWPer, they have a very good bedrock with just those two players alone. The problem starts to become, it's like everyone was raving about, Android. I've always Android was going to go to the next level at this major. Android's absolutely sick. He's been sick for ages. Not getting enough done at the moment, and then people are like, "Oh yeah, well, okay, not getting enough done at the moment." Def's had a real rough time lately, and it's like the bottom line is this is a team that I don't know. It's like I saw the warning signs when mentally you start talking about qualifying for later stages of tournaments as if you've just won a tournament. Like, you saw that interview where Shazam was like, I went outside and cried because they made the last 8 or whatever. It's like,
should have been crying after these fucking tournaments, you daft little cunt. Exactly. Your life's gone. It's over. Yeah. Done for you.
Yeah. Well, not for him.
He's all right, actually. But make that your new post. Get ready.
Yeah. But it's like, listen, guys, like if you have self-belief, you don't think, well, this is the peak, Once you mentally do that, once you mentally believe you've got to the summit, it's very hard to climb higher when you need to at a later date. And they've had some very lackluster results. Like, no disrespect to Existence Galaxy. I know Barbar pretty well. In fact, some of the worst states I've ever been in terms of drinking is with that fucking big bastard. He's a good old boy. He said some pretty wild shit in an interview about how he thinks Plopsky is better than Brolan. Plopsky's their 16-year-old star with hands down the worst name in Counter-Strike, Plopsky. But I don't think Existence Galaxy are particularly good or going to do anything outside of a fucking Sweden. Like, I don't think you see, maybe even see this 5 go to a real event ever again. The likes of Complexity losing 2-0 to them in pretty comprehensive fashion is just really embarrassing. And I keep saying it. Complexity have got money and backing now. You have to stop thinking about this idea of we were the team that finished bottom, so we get the draft picks, we'll develop the youth, and we'll be good in 3 years. That model is never going to work within Counter-Strike. It's success has to come in a much quicker pace, and I just feel like there's just players on this team that maybe overpunched a little bit and got a stay of execution. But now's the time to spend some of that money and bring in better players, and let's get that Complexity brand rolling again at a time when, as I said, esports history is at a premium. I just don't know if Jason Lake's going to be ruthless enough to do it. I think he's got to be. I think he's got to find that ruthless streak. Otherwise, this is pretty much the standard you're going to see from this Complexity lineup moving forward.
Yeah, the major was the massive outlier for this team. Every single time since then, I've been like, right, let's see what they can do. Now, they've fucking flopped every time. They lost to a Vanguard and that MSI thing, which again, you should win that all day long. They went out last place at Star Series. They didn't do particularly well. Like pretty much every tournament they go to, I think the only one they did half decently was that DreamHack Atlanta, which wasn't exactly a stacked field. So absolutely no, this team has not shown themselves to be a credible, like professional Counter-Strike team. And as you say, it's one thing if you got what the old Complexity had, right? We're a budget org, it's a budget team. Let's just try and do enough that people say, "Hey, Complexity's back, haha, that's cool." Like if you're a team that's like partnered with the Dallas Cowboys and you actually have resources now, you have training facilities, you're inviting Astralis over. God only knows what Astralis is getting out of that practice, by the way, but fair enough. You're inviting these teams over. You're trying to do all the big things, to show that you're legit. Eventually, results have to come in the game. You have to mirror something there. Otherwise, it's all just fucking hot air, isn't it? It's just a bunch of nonsense. And at the moment, I have to say, I'd be making big time cuts in this team. Like, I'd be tearing this team apart.
Well, we'll talk about the winners. Easy for Enter. There was a good shit post on the front page of the CSGO subreddit where somebody said, "I am new to CS and I've heard about this Finnish team called Ensa. Can anyone here explain why everything seems to be so easy for them?" And I was like, immediately.
Here's the thing. That one was funny. As every now and then you'll get the odd one that's actually funny because someone creative comes up with something from it. The same people who are like, "Oh, it's low-hanging fruit." Why do they always talk about the same things? The same people, easy for Ents. Ents, it's easy. 4, 1, 2, 3, easy, Ents. Get me out of this fucking world. It's mad, isn't it? It's just so mad. They're just spamming catchphrases. It's like, you know that thing in fucking, I think it was Extras, right? Where Ricky Gervais had that like thing where the joke was like, there was like that. Yeah, there was like that fake comedy show within a show.
When the whistle blows.
If you just made that esports related, that'd be the #1 fucking show of all time. Friends.
Is it easy, friends?
Exactly. Catchphrase all the time. Isn't it? It's like, ha ha, hey, Alu, ha ha ha, them Red Bulls, ha ha, for you. It's like, great. That was literally like 2 years ago or something now, guys. 3 years ago, I think. Can we fucking just let it go and start some new jokes?
So, I mean, what I'll say is like, in terms, like hands down, they looked the best team at the tournament, like worthy winners. It was interesting. A lot of people were talking about bravado and it's you got this style and blah blah blah. They were made to look like the ordinary team that they actually are by Ents in the final. Really solid performances all around by everybody on the team, and I always felt like. Now, first of all, they were a good shout to win this. If the G2 lineup didn't click, they would have been my pick. Second, like I honestly thought G2 should have gone to at least the final. It's a fucking embarrassment they didn't. But certainly Ents, I thought were always going to be there or thereabouts. And they're an interesting team for me. I think I like them in terms of their ability a lot more than you do. I still think this is a team that has that potential to kick on. And maybe it's a case of, they do need one more roster change. Sunny is always the one that's floated. Things not going too great over at Mouse Sports right now. They've plateaued a little bit. Ents on the come up. But I think like tournaments like this, they're actually capable of winning them now. And they've proven that by getting over the line and winning a DreamHack Winter. Do you expect them to continue to improve, or are you not a true believer?
It's tough to tell because there are actually some factors that make them seem like they have potential. Like, for example, one of the things I was amazed by when I saw how well they did when they won that Star Series was like they didn't just win because Sergey and Alu fragged everyone and it's like, oh, these are just really good players. It's like, actually, I have to say, Alexi B, the in-game leader, looked like he was doing a pretty good job. Like, they actually had a pretty decent team set up. The map pool was surprisingly deep. They seemed to play with structure. Then at that tournament, that aerial guy wasn't doing very well, and everyone was telling me, no, don't worry, he's sick. Actually, he's had a few tournaments where he looked pretty decent. So the firepower is probably underrated in that team. Like, obviously, except for Alu and now Sergey, people don't know the names as much, but firepower's not bad. As a team, they're fairly well-rounded. My problem is this: I just don't see them kicking up into like any much more relevant than this. Like, they look like they could tear up the tier 2 scene. If they go to big tournaments, that's part of the problem. I don't know whether it comes from the fact they're trying to play real Counter-Strike or what, but while they do very well, as you're saying, in this level of tournament, they don't seem like the team that causes the big upset against the big squads. Now, that might sound weird because sometimes, believe it or not, it can actually be better if you want to get just the odd upset to have just like loads of aimers and not even be a very good team. And actually, like, Hellraise is a great example. Like, as a team, consistency used to be pure shit in Hellraisers, but you knew they were going to get a mad upset every now and then. You knew they were going to beat a big team every now and then. One off, yeah, but it's going to happen. So I feel as though the problem maybe for Ents is with the lineup they currently have. Maybe they actually have gotten consistent, and that, as a result, they're going to sort of plateau at this level. Which, by the way, if they keep going, you could maybe still creep in the top 10. You could maybe come out in 10th.
Well, that was the point I was going to make. I actually think they will 100% be a comfortable top 10 team as you move into Q1 of 2019.
It's just making that jump up's the hard thing,
Yeah, absolutely. Like they need to get to these like tier 1 events, but I think if you look at some of the mitigating circumstances, already alluded to one, Mouse Sports are having a weird period where, in the absence of Rops being able to perform to a level commensurate to his star power, they're starting to slowly slip down the rankings right now. You've got Big, Smoothie is having his first crisis of confidence. We'll probably be talking about that next week. But it just goes to show you set yourself up for the fall when you fucking shit talk. And the point I'm going to elaborate on when we get to next week is just going to be, this is a guy who I think he spent so much time licking the arse of other fucking players that he perceives are better because he wants to play with them. He's got to a point now where mentally he underperforms when he faces those players, and it's starting to become a problem for Big, because when Big have had their deep runs at tournaments, Smoothie is the guy that's gone off like a firecracker. Now he seems to be a little bit intimidated or, not in the zone when they play bigger names. So Big is starting to slip down the rankings. You got North. Like you said there, sure, I think they're I think they're a better team than Optic, but where are they really going to go under this Cadian stewardship? The jury's still out for me. So there is, and I think if Ents played North, 10 times, I think Ents might beat them 6 times out of 10. It certainly would be close to a 50-50 split. So I think with all of those mitigating circumstances, I think Ents can definitely creep into the top 10 and take a foothold. And
it's weird, isn't it?
From there, I don't know.
Even though, and I definitely agree with this sentiment, for most of this year, positions, let's say I would say spots 5 to 10 on the global rankings have been pretty weak. And you look and you're like, right, the top teams are very good. These teams are fucking a bit, bit whatever. But you go beyond that. You go positions 10 to 20. Fucking hell, there's a lot of parity there. That's legit as fuck. And by the way, 10 to 20 is no longer very far from the bottom of the top 10. As in the past, if you were top 10, it's just taken for granted you beat everyone below you pretty much. Right, okay, I might not be able to beat the third best team, but I'm going to beat the team that's 17th and 21st. Not anymore, mate. That is a different one. That's why one thing I will say is I will credit, even though, obviously I'm not a huge fan of watching them, tournaments like DreamHack Opens, etc. They're not for me. But I appreciate that they exist. I've made this point in past episodes, because what they do is they do let you get all these teams that you're like, oh, I wonder how good they actually are, and let them mix it up and let them play each other. And as a result, you get a real sense of where tier 2 is at in that sense. You actually have gotten the results.
It's kind of it's a really weird time, because I would say the top 10 overall is the weakest we've had. It's actually got weaker than it was, again, 3 to 6 months ago when I was saying this is undoubtedly, I think, the weakest top 10. If you consider that MIBR is the 5th best team in the world according to the HLTV rankings, and NRG are the 6th, NIP are the 7th, Big are the 9th. You're like, fucking hell, this is a top 10 that would actually be shameful by comparison to this time last year. But then obviously the number 1 team is the best team we've ever fucking had. It's the best version of the best team we've ever had. So the overall skill ceiling, the level they're operating at and what it takes to dethrone them is insane. But then you move outside the top 10 and you go 11 to 30. That is the fucking best we've ever had in terms of strength and depth. There are sleeper teams down there that are capable of beating teams in the top 5. Even when you get down to the 25th best team, Ghost, that they're having close series with Na'Vi. They've beaten Na'Vi at tournaments. Na'Vi are the number 2 team in the world. So you've got this weird situation where the tier 2 is the strongest it's ever been. The tier 1 is the weakest it's ever been. I don't know if that makes sense logically, because obviously it suggests the talent is kind of spread out and dispersed rather than being concentrated.
If I had to guess at a pattern, I would say the only connection between the two is probably, aside from the fact that now tier 2 teams have lands to play out, which were the old lands that the top teams were playing out anyway. Aside from them getting space, I will just say when in certain regions, It's just that they don't make the best use of their talent. Yeah, they just spread out, and not everyone's in the top team anymore. In fact, that whole thing, I have to say, of like all the best players from the country are in the number one team from the country, that's not really the case in very many teams, I don't think, at this point in time. It kind of feels like the old days. I mean, that's the pre-buyout days. We could get anyone you wanted.
So we'll also talk about the other event that was going on, Supernova CSGO Malta. How are we doing for time, by the way, Sam? If you're there.
About an hour and a half in.
All right, cool. Good.
Hour 35.
Yeah, no worries. So, I mean, this in terms of, we spent a lot of time talking about DreamHack Winter. This invariably was going on at the same time and was a better tournament, had a bigger prize pool. It was in
held
Malta.
in a much better place.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Malta is pretty baller if anyone's ever been there. So there was some great games. I mean, there was some really good series that came out of this. So we'll sort of disseminate what the best stories were. Talked a little bit about Big, and I already alluded to how they were kind of underwhelming at this event. They had it was a great game, but Tyloo on Overpass, I think they're pretty good on that. Historically as a record, they were able to beat this Gambit team, which we all know is just kind of spinning its wheels right now. Got some players in there that don't really have that top pedigree. And again, I mean, I don't know what happened. Didn't Gambit say they were fucking pulling out of CS? Was that like some weird lie to try and make their players stay or get money for them? I don't even know. But, they were supposedly dropping their CS team and moving out of the game. And now they're still trucking and going to tournaments. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. But Big were able to get a win over, like Gambit and Tyloo in the best of threes, lost to Liquid. So, kind of a bit of a weird tournament for them up and down.
Restart your cam, by the way, don't get frozen. Or is he just gone?
I think he might have just DC'd.
No, he's gone.
He's gone.
I got his snap picture up, mate.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go. All next, Matt. So, I thought this was a bit of a weird one for Big, because obviously they did lose to the eventual fucking winners of the tournament. But, I still feel that just if you look in terms of their individual level of performance, you had like some good things going on. I thought Tabson was great at this tournament. Best I've seen him play in a while. Nex again was kind of getting back, but then you have the drop off of Smooya. Tizian had some key rounds, I think, in terms of development. He's a good project. I just think Big should be aiming a little bit higher than this. I think Big.
Back. Right,
yeah, here he is. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I kind of feel that Big have dropped off a little bit. I was just saying that, Dunk. I mean, they did lose the series to the eventual winners, but, in doing so, they didn't look particularly great. And even though they had some players step up in the form of, like, Nex looked pretty decent and Tabson played really, really well this tournament. Unfortunately, the other things that you could usually rely on, like Smooya, kind of dropped off at the same time. Is Big another one of these teams that's kind of plateaued, or do you think they can, there's a way where they can get all of these pieces firing again and move forward and kick up those rankings?
My big problem with Big is I actually think that this lineup's been at a similar level for a long time now. So we're talking like months and months. Remember, ESL Cologne was back in like July or something. Like, this is quite a while ago. They had that big run to the finals. So I think the problem they have as a team is, it looks pretty set to me how good most of the players are. The only real X factor was Smooya, obviously, and as you referenced before, he's not been having a very good last few months. Like, he's had some mad poor performances in some really big games that he was needed in. And then you've got to add in that they still have to play with the scenario where every now and then Nex does really well, and then he just does shit in a whole bunch of games. That's still just a thing. Tabson's a really good player. Tizian actually probably turned out to be better than you'd expect for someone who you'd never heard of at a top level. And then God B does a pretty good job, sets his team up correctly, seems to call the game right. The problem is, if you look at them, I don't think the results lie on this one. Like, I think you'd have a very hard time explaining away the results when you consider they've had the same lineup for like half a year or more. There've been lots of tournaments, lots of tier 2 tournaments. There've been even tier 3 tournaments, and there've been tier 1 tournaments as well. They generally tend to beat the same sorts of teams. I know they mentioned like the odd upsets. For example, they beat Navi when they're at the IM Chicago. But generally, they're a team that actually is kind of like an old school top 10 team where it's like you take care of the teams below you and then you lose to all the teams above you. So I do think this is an absolutely plateaued team. Like, I don't see how they break through the ceiling unless somehow like Smooya develops more as a player or something. But like Nex is Nex. It's just not much going to happen in that case. And the problem I have is this: when I know you're putting in mad hours to the game and you're studying the game like God B does, and you're working on all these different things, if then you also don't get really good results, it's like, what can I hope for? You've already put in the hours. It's not like you haven't yet begun going seriously. You've been trying to win these tournaments, mate. Like, you've done your best. So I feel as though they're a team that, like, another team I think should consider Rosterman, quite frankly. I think they're one piece away from being a pretty fucking good team.
Yeah, you might be onto something.
And I wouldn't even necessarily kick Smoothie there. I don't even know who I'd kick. Maybe we'll discuss that one in the next one. But
yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's more the
tough.
next week thing, because there's lots going on with Big, so we'll hold off going too in depth on it. But you remember we talked about Team Liquid as well last week, and we were saying, what happens with this team, and one of the problems they've got is that one of their nemesis is a team that should be infinitely beatable for them in the form of NRG. They definitely conquered that hoodoo here. I mean, NRG went all the way to the final. Liquid played them twice in 2 best-of-3s at this tournament, and Liquid won both ones. So Liquid go on to win the whole tournament. And it's kind of like this tournament is on a level with the CS Summit, right? No doubt. So we already know Liquid were capable of winning tournaments of this level. But I think the nature of the win, the fact that they were able to beat NRG, like when it got to the NRG, when it was the Liquid NRG final and it was a replay of a series that had already happened, I was pretty convinced actually that NRG were going to win. I thought, here we go. But actually, Liquid won the first map comprehensively. They won Inferno. Close, it was 16-14. They 2-0'd, and they just looked really, really, really fucking good, like better than they had done before, and specifically better than they have done in matchups against NRG. Now, I'm not going to get all on board the fucking Team Liquid thing. I saw a lot of like people talking like, oh, this'll kick Team Liquid on now. They're going to fucking, they've conquered it. They fucking.
Isn't it weird how narratives work, mate? It's so bizarre. Like, I hate fake narratives. I've always said this. The thing that tilts me the most was when they used to do the LCS in League of Legends, right? And what they would do is, obviously, in your weekly schedule, because it's a league, you just play everyone, right? And they would literally do this. Your team loses to the 2 best teams in the league. You go 0-2 that week. Next week, you play the 7th and the 5th best team, and you win 2 games, and they go back on track with 2 wins, overcoming their problems from last week. It's like, the context is so off with that comment. Like, by your logic, what if you lose to the top teams, you lose to everyone? And if you beat some shit teams, that means you made up for losing the top. You don't. That doesn't make any sense. Well, likewise, why was there all this hoopla about Team Liquid winning? It's bizarre. People are like, they've broken the curse. Finally. It's like, are we all just going to stop a second and agree that the premise is the reason Team Liquid didn't win an event is they're incapable of winning events? No, they were going to the biggest tournaments in the world. If they'd have gone to fucking the Bad Star Ladder, if they'd have gone to CS Summit, I'm pretty sure they nail all these tournaments. If they'd have gone to fucking DreamHack Atlanta, I'm pretty sure they have another trophy. This is why winning is actually overrated until you know the context. Like, by this logic, if I'd have just had control of Liquid and I'd have been super cynical and just sent them to loads of tier 2 lands and they'd won them all, what people would be going, why are you sharing the losers? They're all fine. It's like, no, they still haven't won the big one. The point is, the reason why it's noticeable they haven't won the big one is because they're so good and they're so capable of beating everyone except the Astralis that, like, it seems bizarre they haven't gotten over that hump in a big final, which this doesn't change at all. This is a smaller event. Certainly, it's an event that looked good. Didn't have the best teams. Liquid's easily the highest ranked team there. The second highest ranked team is the team you're talking about, who they comfortably beat twice. Like, it's actually not to me, this is like business as usual. Like, I know they haven't won tournaments, but as I said, they also haven't been in a position as easy as this. This is the easiest tournament they've played all year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, like I say, for me, the positive you take from this tournament is we beat one of our, like, nemesis, like, twice, right? We now know we can do that. There's no, like, there's no reason to fear them next time you meet them in a tournament or whatever. We didn't just beat them in best of 1s. We beat them in best of 3s. We did it comprehensively. We did it closely. We pretty much played any type of series we can, and if you can slay out the 2 teams that like consistently beat Liquid are obviously like fucking Astralis and NRG, right? So you've conquered one of them. But yeah, I agree. I would have been very surprised looking at the teams in attendance here if Liquid hadn't have come out the winner. Now, I did say, with the caveat, if they replayed NRG in the final, I probably would have backed NRG, and I did. I thought mentally when I saw the game coming in, I was like, fuck, NRG will probably do this, and Liquid will be, getting absolutely castigated by the community again. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this doesn't change any of the narrative around, the real narrative around this Team Liquid side. And it's like, when are you going to be able to win a big one? When are you going to be able to beat a big team? When are you going to be able to beat Astralis? When is that going to work? Maybe it never happens. There's no shame in it, in playing in an era with the best team we've ever had and you not winning a tournament. But it's like you say, this Liquid team is so good in terms of the tools it has at its disposal. You would just think if you kept playing Astralis over and over and over again like they have done, they would have to get over. They would have to win at least once. If MIBR can do it.
Yeah, that's the thing people don't get, because it sounds like a counterintuitive statement. But considering Team Liquid is actually, in theory, the team that Astralis beats the most. They consistently beat them every single time. Yet, bizarrely, Team Liquid should be one of the primary favourites to beat Astralis, even in terms of factors like, I'll give you a great one. So one of the reasons why a Team Liquid struggles with Astralis is their map pool is pretty much covered by Astralis's, right? Well, there's an upside to that, which is if you really are almost as good as these guys and that you're always playing maps you like as well, eventually you should trip over and fucking win one. Like, surely eventually you win. Like if I have Astralis play someone else on someone else's favorite maps, they're going to get some maps off them eventually. You've seen them drop maps to other teams. That's the reason why it's bizarre. So that's why I always suggest to a Team Liquid psychological issue beyond the game,
Yeah, and in terms of the stuff that was going on at this tournament, I mean, again, I think like big, NRG, like for me, consolidated like how I feel about them, which, I look at them on the ranking and I think they're like top 5. I think
they're quality team.
Yeah, I think they're developed. I mean, they were hampered a little bit in the final. Disrespect. I know he's the in-game leader, but Daps underperformed even by IGL standards. Had a real poor tournament, and the NRG that I saw here in a lot of the series, it looked like the fucking NRG that I didn't think could work. I've been really critical and banged on Fugly quite a lot. He's doing a great job. He had some really key rounds where you can understand his role within the team. So I got to give him that. I just feel that like he tends to do that at one tournament and then cools down for the next 2 or 3, and it becomes an issue again. And then he kind of fades in and out. But Ethan, Breezy, and Cirque, like what a trio, man! Like, and this is a legit fucking team that is like definitely capable of having deep runs in tournaments, and certainly tournaments of this caliber. Let's not forget, again, they go to the final, could have beat Team Liquid. Maybe if they pick up a couple of rounds on Inferno, like NAF went out of fucking control on that map. Maybe if they pick up a few rounds and it goes to Mirage, maybe NRG do steal that one. But I still think the progress of NRG is great. They're almost like the outlier in the sense that Complexity wants to be an NRG. They want to take the young players and develop them and be successful. But we all know how rarely that actually happens. Well, NRG are the outlier and prove that it can be done, almost to the detriment of every other team that fucking attempts it. But yeah, I mean, like super impressed with NRG as usual. Not a big, not a big surprise there. But overall, good tournament. Had some good games. I'm not going to bang the Virtus Pro drum like I just want it to end. Just please make it end. And Hellraisers pretty much did, what I expected them to do. Definitely, they were about on Big's level, so I'm going to kind of judge them in terms of what they do at the next tournament. There was a couple of news hits that are worth talking about. Just in terms of roster moves. Let me fucking hang on. I've lost my document. I've wrote down Peacemaker to stay on as fucking heroic coach. Let's not talk about that. So Refresh has officially left Fragsters. This is the young player Refresh who we've talked about as he drew a lot of plaudits for some of his performances in that Fragsters team. Particularly Get Right said he felt he could be one of the next big players. Well, he's going to get this opportunity because his Cloud9 are kind of stumbling and bumbling around and trying to find their final 5. Their Golden apparently has some health problems. I don't know if you heard about this.
Okay.
It was revealed on a stream. I think it was Automatic while Jason R was streaming. That apparently Golden's been having some problems related to his heart. Which
can't catch a fucking break in Cloud9 this year, can they?
Well, sure. I mean, Cloud9 can't catch a break. Neither can fucking Golden, by the way. I'll tell you what the problem is. He's probably got all them knives sticking in it from all them Fnatic cunts. Check your back, mate. You'll probably clear up in no time. but he so he's having to take a step out, and then Refresh is going to stand in and be a fucking and this is like his opportunity to play with some elite level players. Really excited for him. I hope he can fucking nail it. It's going to be at the Blast Pro Series in Lisbon. These opportunities come along very rarely for young players, so I'm hoping he nails it. I just wanted to sort of pick your brains about A, the move, and B, whether you think Refresh can sort of seize this opportunity with both hands.
Like, obviously, it sucks that when you get the chance in the team, it's instead of the in-game leader and they're not going to have proper structure. So I can't hold him too accountable in that sense. But as you say, like, the platform is way bigger. Like, just playing a Cloud9, people are going to see you who didn't watch you when you were in Fragsters. You're at a big tournament. Well, big in a sense, it's got a big status, I guess. So you'll get to play having Astralis, these level of teams. It's definitely a chance just for you individually to style a little bit and show that you've got some skills. Because if you're someone like a Refresh, we just spent the rest of the episode talking, North can be a bit wonky, optics a bit shit. These are the sort of players who should be next in line to get their crack at being in one of these teams and actually get real resources around them and then see what they're capable of. So, yeah, I think that's actually generally a positive scenario for everyone. Obviously, it sucks for Cloud9 because it just feels like they've never been to fucking 2 lands in a row with the same lineup. It's just getting annoying at this point in time.
Yeah, like you're absolutely right. I mean, these are the things. Like it used to happen a lot back in the day. I don't know how often it happens now. But if you went as a stand-in or at last minute to a LAN event and you fucking absolutely nailed the performance, it kind of cements the idea that holy shit. I think this is like very much the shop window for him. And I hope that pressure kind of doesn't get to him and he just plays his game. I mean, there is no doubt this is going to be really tough for him. This is a step up in terms of the players you're playing around you. You're the stand-in, so you're not getting any plum rolls. I mean, if they think about it logically, maybe they will kind of let him just kind of play his game and they'll try and fit around him. But this is going to be tough. This is coming into the Lions' Den, but 1 or 2 good performances, and you're right. I could see a team like an Optic if they're still going to pursue with this Danish thing. Maybe he gets a shout even at that high upper level if he can prove that he is capable of playing with elite level players. So big opportunity. Really excited to see how it turns out for him. There was also I saw
obviously could also thrill the local crowd in Lisbon there because, as we know, Portugal's never had any good Counter-Strike players.
Yeah, of course. Wasn't there some guy called Fox or something? I can't remember.
Was he? No, I think that was a character out of like Smash Brothers or something.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, my bad.
But ironically, he also button bashes. So there you go.
Yeah. So I was gonna say I saw an advertisement that tickled my fancy. I thought, yeah, well, Ty Lue were advertising for a coach.
Yeah,
and if you remember, their last coach was of course Peacemaker, who royally fucked him. But
it's fair play to him in that sense, though, that they said, right, well, our decision making brought us Peacemaker. So at this point in time, let's just do an open advertisement. Is there anyone in the world can coach Counter-Strike? Because we can't find any fucking body.
Well, I was wondering, Duncan. That's what I was going to say. They tweeted it out. It said our CS:GO team is looking for an experienced and passionate coach with great understanding of the game. If you're interested in working in our organization, please send your CV and your thoughts about our team to jack@tylugaming.com or DM for inquiries. This is it, Duncan. This is your way in. This is your way to prove.
Okay.
Right? Ty Lue are a sleeper team, mate. You should take this job. Get that Chinese Skrilla. It's the last thing that you haven't done in your career to make money. So why don't you do it? Send in an application. Mate, you already talked about how you could have been a League of Legends coach. This is it, mate. This is the one. I want you to apply and see what they say.
I can only imagine how many shit emails that guy must have had from Reddit analysts. Like, I could be an excellent guy. For example, against Astralis, I would ban Nuke. Like, brilliant. Yeah, sound. You're amazing. You are.
It's interesting. But no, I think it's good that they're kind of going down the route of, bringing in a coach because, I mean, this is another team that has kind of plateaued, but has like a lot of talent on the roster. And Captain Mo, like, I think he got fucking sick again with like some mouth infection. He's another can't catch a break, by the way. Like playing from a fucking wheelchair for like half of the year. Yeah. But I think, I wanted to signal boost that. I think you should definitely apply to it. I would love to see you based in China making money coaching Ty Lue. I'm
breathing that
personally-
air quality.
Although after everything we said at the start of the show,
about a year into the team, I would actually just be like fucking Vader, like, oh, bitch.
So there it is. And then all we got to do now is take our Patreon question.
there
Jerky's
one?
Minium. What? Yeah, there is. Yeah, one of our $100 patrons asks, or rather states, CS frag movies now seem to be less impressive, but more cerebral and calculated in the frags that they choose. Is this due to the way the game has evolved over the different versions? So, I mean, I'll be honest. I fucking think like frag movies are really like, you know, I remember the ones I used to watch back in the day, and like obviously we never had anything like that. So that like, and they were just like a collection of frags. Oh, and his skillet, you know, and it was just fucking. You would just go, and it was like, yeah, these are great. And now when you go back and you look at them, you realize how actually shit they are.
Course,
And just in terms of production value, and you literally have this romanticized version of them in your brain, like you do with all nostalgia, you know. But I've watched a lot of new. Like with all the like technology and editing tools and everything else, I rarely see a frag movie these days. But wow, that's actually, you know, pushing the medium forward. And in terms of the content, we still get like mad explosive moments and like unbelievable like sick clutches and like that's the nature of Counter-Strike. That's never going to change. But yeah, I don't think I've really seen a frag movie that's like fucking, you know, shook me like by the lapels like the old frag movies used to do, where you would tease a frag movie coming out. Like a movie maker would announce, I am making a frag movie about this player, and you would be like, fucking awesome. And they would like release like 30-second teasers of their editing and shit, and you'd be like, oh, I can't wait for this. I don't even know if we have like any, remember like the organizations like InfProd and stuff like that? Like, do we even have like movie making crews now anymore?
I don't
You know,
think
like
so, because as far as I know, everyone's like a private YouTuber trying to fucking grind that ad rev out, aren't they? So I think nowadays probably not.
Yeah, and what about like, you know, guys like what was he called? I Shield, the French dude. He made some really good movies and like documentaries and shit back in the day. Like I don't know, I don't know if it is because the game's changed. I think more likely what's happened is the way content monetization works has changed. And probably the amount of effort you put into making a frag movie compared to how much money it makes via YouTube when it invariably gets like only 100,000, 200,000 hits, it's probably not worth the effort, honestly. You're much better off being a fucking 10 hours of case opening. You get the same amount of hits, same amount of money, fraction of the effort, you know? So I don't know if you generally agree with that. I mean, anything we can do to bring frag movies back from the dead, make them better,
not
make
really.
them great again?
I don't think you can fix it. Like a lot of it's just like the circumstances of the current scene. Like for example, if there's a really great clip, you've already seen the clip. So you see it on Twitter, you see it on YouTube, you see it on HLTV.org. So
true.
Remember, like part of what used to be sick about watching a movie is like maybe you didn't watch that guy's POV in that tournament. You didn't used to have highlights. So as a result, you're seeing loads of frags you never seen. If I make a movie about shocks now, you've probably seen 90% of the clips in it. So it can't ever be as thrilling. Then this might sound like a bizarre aspect, but because people love that aspect where you have the casters cast over the top of it, what they don't realize is that means that that section of the movie can never fully leave the moment that was already created by the casters and the player. Like old frag movies was just music and the frags. So as a result, you can create a totally different ambience. Like you can kind of like build up the energy level and stuff. If you just put clips in with the casting, which on a low level is cool, it makes every movie quite similar, actually. You don't ever get that different feel to it. You know, oh, this one's got like a house background and now it's trying to keep this kind of energy, or this one's a drum bass one or whatever, you know. You don't really do that. So I think that's like a problem in and of itself. And then finally, I think like actually a big problem that they have is kind of like what you alluded to with like how like mediums of publication change. So I'll give you a quick analogy. People are always telling me, why haven't you written a book about esports? If you knew anything about the publishing model, it wouldn't make any sense. You know, I essentially can get paid much, much more per page to do just articles like I currently do. Like I may as well just do the same book, but just over like 50 text pieces online. Like I would make way more money, way more guaranteed. I'd have a lot less stress. I wouldn't have to do it all for a fucking year. Like it just doesn't make any, like the circumstances would be so bizarre in which it would make sense for me to write the book. So similarly, as he was saying there, like in the past, You used to spend like sometimes 6 months, a year on the movie. It'd be so hyped. It'd be coming out. It'd be a big event. And then hopefully get all your traffic. You get a lot of fame, plaudits. You don't get any of that now. Like the whole thing is in the time that it takes you to make that amazing movie, someone else took the same clips and made like a half decent movie with okay soundtrack. And he already released it on YouTube ages ago. In fact, one of the big problems I think with movie makers now is the signal noise of shit movies and clips is so high that it's so hard to find the good ones. Like one of the other things is back in the day, there actually weren't that many top pros that had a really good movie. So if someone did have one, it'd live on in fucking history. Like people who mentioned it 5 years later. Nowadays, you could go and type in like Shock's Frag movie. I bet you find like 20, if not maybe more even. There'll be loads. And I bet most of them are similar quality. That's why I tend to, for movies nowadays, to just go by the movie maker themselves. Like, for example, there's that guy who does a lot of the events nowadays called like Virre, who's from Sweden, I believe. The reason I like his movies is they're not even like the best movies or anything. They're just very cleanly edited, you know. They always look sharp. The music's never like some obnoxious dubstep or something. And you get all the clips you want to see. But I'm not watching it in the same way I used to. Like I'm saying, like, you know, fucking DKT2 or something in CS 1.6. I'm like, holy shit, it's amazing. Like, I'm loving it all. So, unfortunately, as much as we can bemoan, I wish that was still the case. It's like, I think that's just a product of the old world, unfortunately. I don't think we can ever come back.
Yeah, and it's a good point that fucking there are some, like, I mean, it was like this in Source, dude, where there was like some unbelievable dog shit players that like were hyped up, especially NA players. Yeah, especially NA players in Europe were hyped up. Like, I remember when I first came in the scene and it was, you know, fucking all these movies that were coming out was like JD, you know, from Hyper and Dirty Secret. And first of all, these movies are really bad. I mean, they're done with like Source demos and stuff like this. And you would be like, you know, like everyone would be like, oh, look at this amazing player from NA. Hyper must be the best team of all time. It's like, nah, like they've had a very brief window where they were like good by NA standards, and that was it, you know. But the movies live on, and you remember the names because of the movie, you know. Very often as well, the synergy with the music makes the clips appear better than they actually, you know. You remember the you remember the soundtrack, not the actual skills, you know. So yeah, I think you're right. I think probably frag movies are just a little bit outdated, or we need somebody to come in and kind of like do something that's like has never really been done before. You know, something on an artistic level.
Like for me, if you wanted to make a sick one now, you'd have to do something like the player himself would have to be involved and his team would have to provide some of the funding, maybe through a sponsor. And you'd have to be like, this isn't just going to be my frags. It's going to have like a theme, and I want it to be like very special in this way. And we're going to craft it but like that would just be a marketing exercise at that point in time. You're not really talking about the normal movie making scene anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope that answers your question. And remember, if you're a $100 patron, you get to ask a question at the end of the show. But we're going to wrap up the show now. So thank you very much, Duncan. I know it was difficult for you to get here, shrouded in darkness as always. But it was always good to have you, especially when you're semi-triggered like that. It always makes for the best.
Starting a cold, so whatever. Fuck everyone.
I don't blame you, brother. Fuck everyone, indeed. So obviously, shout out to the sponsors, Rivalry.gg. Remember, you can go to Rivalry.gg/RLS, sign up there. You get $350 worth of VIP bonuses, and of course, a shout out to our patrons. Now, I know we've always said if we drop below the $2,500, we'll kill the show because we're greedy. But
it was real. Anyway. Just like to say, never liked any of you anyway. Thanks for the money.
Moonwalk out. No, but like it has dropped below. But obviously it's Christmas. A lot, you know.
So get your fucking wallets out and give some cheer, you little cunts. Why don't you give money where it's needed? What you just like stuff for free, do you? What are you?
No, what I was gonna say is that obviously, you know, it's Christmas, so money. You know, you need money for your family and everything. So we don't mind.
Fuck your family. They don't even talk about banner and Counter Strike. Pay us.
True. But yeah, so we'll revisit it.
Is $100 going to make your dad love you more and fix all those problems, or is it going to make us able to keep doing this show? Think about that very carefully. Remember, most people in your life right now, in your family, will be irrelevant in the long time scale of human history, whereas we could live in infamy. So what do you want to contribute? Your fucking family who's happen to be born near you, or us, legends of the fucking scene, trying to make that skrill.
Right. We'll now that you've said that,
sell your organs, give us the money. Actually, I was against TOS, so I was joking when I said to sell your organs.
No, like Here's the thing, like, because of how everything you fucking say, the opposite gets fucking willed
Right.
into reality. Me and you are going to be fucking streaming Football Manager to 20 people now, saying fuck Semler, D-man style.
At least we'll be with D-Man, though. Yeah,
Callback.
exactly, yeah.
True,
I
yeah.
cannot believe I've just picked up Ashley Cole. I used to have a career, guys.
As if we banged on him.
He's come back.
Yeah,
I know,
what
it's just too
cunt,
funny though, isn't it?
It is brilliant. Right, anyway, right, so thanks to the patrons, $100 patron, Bot Vic, who's the big chief with $150, thanks a lot, brother. Detlef Insomniac and Jerky's Mini and long-time supporters, thank you very much. $50 patrons, Benakagi Assassin, Carv, Daniel Plamanov Yordanov, Dieter Dornoff Christensen, Madsen, Manuel Stockley, Marcus Kianpa, Nostradamus, Pete Bidstrup, Rekovic on Steam, Roosty, Sardsawar, TC Owens, Watch Doge, and William Southern. So that was by the numbers. We're off to go and enjoy some lovely Counter-Strike Battle Royale, and we will see you next time. Take care.